Hey guys, welcome back to Lee's Unpopular Opinions podcast, where I give my unpopular opinions, thoughts, and hot takes on things. Thank you guys once again for coming back to listen to another episode. It really means a lot to me, and I really appreciate it. Shout out to all you guys. Well, first things first, Happy New Year, everyone. I'm hoping your new year is filled with love, happiness, and joy. And also, I hope you have a very prosperous year and, fulfill any like New Year's resolutions you may have had. And I just hope you guys have a very productive year. And secondly, so I just checked the stats on my podcast again, and it's grown so much since I started it. And honestly, I just want to say thanks, you guys. I know my podcast isn't as big as other people's podcasts and it doesn't have like a gazillion listeners, but it still has a good amount of listeners for someone who started in like March of last year. I definitely want to give a shout out to like all the people in the stats and all the people I've seen in the stats and all the listeners and stuff, because like my podcast, it gives me this like the stats on like podcast hosting on the podcast hosting site. It gives me the stats of who I'm listening to and how many listeners we have and whatnot. And I got 12 listens, 12 plays on my last podcast episode, so that's really cool. And even if like 12 listeners doesn't seem like a lot, like I said a couple episodes ago, if like 12 people in real life came and checked out something I did, I would be so excited and stuff. Like that's so cool to me. Like the episode I uploaded before my hiatus, it has 41 plays on it. Like 41. That's so cool. That's literally 41 people who listen to me. That's literally so cool to me. Like, I really appreciate all of you. And I want to give, like, a shout out to all of my listeners real quick before I start the episode. Um, the stats tell me like where you guys are from, so I just want to like give like a quick like shout out to the cities and stuff like that and the places I've seen and like that. And I appreciate all just to show like I really appreciate all of you guys. And I have listeners all over the world too. I have international listeners. Even though most of my listeners are from the USA, from America, from like United States of America, I do have listeners in over 10 different countries. And I really love all of you guys so much. Just thank you guys so much. But anyway, I'm gonna do a shout out list. And yeah, so anyway, to all my like the listeners of the podcast. So let me go down the shout out list. So in the USA, I see that we have listeners from Maryland. That's where I'm from. And okay, I see a listener from Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Okay, that's probably me because I live in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. So I'm like 99% sure the Upper Marlboro listener in Maryland is probably me because I do listen to my podcast myself sometimes on like Spotify or Apple Podcasts sometimes just to like hear myself and hear like the episode and stuff. But anyway, also I see another person in Maryland from Capitol Heights that listens to my podcast, so that's pretty cool. Shout out to you. Also, I see someone from Fort George F. Meade or something. George Meade. Oh, isn't that the army base? George Meade or something like that. Hold on, let me look that up real quick. Just a second. George Meade base. Um Yeah, George G. Meade. Okay, Fort George G. Meade. Okay, yeah. Sorry, not George F. Meade, George G. Meade. Oh yeah, I think that's like an army base, kind of a little bit up, a little bit north from me. Yeah, okay, cool. That's cool. Shout out to you. That's awesome. Yeah, like I said, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's an army base. I looked it up. Yeah, okay. So, okay, well, it's an army base. Well, if you're in the army, to that listener, thank you for your service. If you're in the military, but yeah, shout out to you. I also see listeners from Washington D.C. That's pretty close to me, so that's cool. Shout out to you. Thanks for tuning in. Um, I see a lot of listeners down south. I see in Georgia we have 3 different cities of listeners, so that's cool. We have people from Lawrenceville, Georgia, Savannah, Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia. Okay, shout out to all of you guys. Oh, actually, my sister went to school in Georgia, so yeah, she went to Emory University for her master's degree. So shout out to Georgia. That's cool. From Texas, I see we have listeners from Dallas, Texas, Bernie, Texas, and Katy, Texas. Okay. I have an uncle who lives in Texas. He says the summers in Texas are like no joke heat wise, and he says it gets like hot as hell down there. But I mean, I guess like the good side of that is like the fact that like in winter, like now, I guess you guys aren't as cold as like the other states, I guess. So I mean, you guys are so lucky for that because in Maryland we just had snow this weekend or this week that just passed. So like, I mean, yeah, you guys are pretty much pretty lucky around this time of year that doesn't get too like cold and stuff. But anyway, shout out to Texas, shout out to you guys. I also see we got a couple listeners in Florida. We have a couple people in Boca Raton, Florida, Lakeland, Florida, and listeners in Orlando, Florida. Oh wow. You know what? If I lived in Orlando, I would literally be going to Disney World like every day. Like literally. Florida sounds like so much fun. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in too. And also, okay, I see we got a couple listeners from up north. Okay, that's cool. From Massachusetts, I see that we have listeners from three different cities as well. I see listeners from Cambridge, Massachusetts. Oh wow, there's actually I didn't know there was a Cambridge in Massachusetts. Oh, that's cool. Because the reason I say that is because like there's also a Cambridge in Maryland, which is the state I'm from. I'm from Maryland, so I think it's kind of cool that there's a Cambridge in Massachusetts and there's also a Cambridge in Maryland. Okay, the Cambridge in Maryland, it's like in southern Maryland, like kind of like near the eastern shore of Maryland area. So that's pretty cool. Okay, shout out to you guys. Also I see listeners from Boston, Massachusetts. Shout out to Boston. Shout out to I know you guys have like a lot of like sports teams up in Boston. Shout out to like the Red Sox and like the Celtics and stuff like that. Shout out to you guys. Even though I don't really keep up with sports like that, shout out to them. And I see listeners from Stoneham, Massachusetts. Okay, that's cool. Um Shout out to all of you guys. Also up north, I see listeners from New Jersey. Okay, I see listeners from Absecon, New Jersey, Egg Harbor, New Jersey. Thank you guys for tuning in. I see listeners from Derry, New Hampshire. Shout out to New Hampshire. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Okay, so that's everybody from up north. Shout out to all of you guys and stuff. Actually, speaking to all the people up north that I just shouted out, how are you guys holding up there with the cold? Because I know around this time of the year, it's probably really cold up there around this time. So good luck dealing with that. Because I know up north gets really really cold. Um, yeah, so I also see some people from the Midwest as well. I see some listeners from the Midwest. That's pretty cool. In Michigan, I see people from Ypsilanti. Is it Ypsilanti or Ypsilanti? Ypsilanti, Michigan. I see people from Detroit, Michigan. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to Michigan. Also, I see listeners from Columbus, Ohio. That's pretty cool. Do you guys visit Cedar Point often? Isn't Cedar Point or is it Cedars Park or Cedar Point? I think Cedar Point isn't that in Ohio, right? I've been to Cedar Point a couple times. That's pretty cool. I went up there a couple times when I was a kid because my mom's old friend used to live up there. But anyway, shout out to you guys. Shout out to Ohio, Michigan, and shout out to y'all. Also, I see listeners from Cloquet, Minnesota. That's pretty cool. Shout out to Minnesota. I see two different listeners. I mean, I see two different cities in Illinois. I see one in Flowsmore, Illinois, and a city in Bellwood, Illinois. I also see listeners from Indianapolis, Indiana. Okay. I see someone from Davenport, Iowa. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to everybody in the Midwest. Shout out to y'all. I also see people from the West Coast or like the West and stuff like that. So that's cool too. I see we got some listeners from California. I see some listeners from Panorama City, California. Oh wow, that's such a cool name for a city. Panorama City? Is that like a city that's like so pretty and has such a nice view that you can like take a panorama of the city? That's such a cool name. Like how did they come up with that name? Oh wait, you know what? Panorama City. That sounds. You know what? That's in the Valley, right? Because I think it's in Los Angeles because that actress Megan Good, she's from there. She's from Panorama City. Um, that's cool. Shout out to you guys. Also, I see someone from Mountain View, California. Shout out to you guys too. Shout out to California. Oh, and here's a little like another fun fact. There's actually a city in Maryland called California. So there's like a California in Maryland. It's like in down south Maryland. There's also a Hollywood in Maryland too. So there's a California Maryland and there's a Hollywood Maryland. I always thought that was kind of funny for Maryland, but I mean, yeah, California's in like southern Maryland, and then Hollywood is like another little city in southern Maryland as well. Just wanted to like put that little tidbit of information out there since we were talking about California and stuff. So yeah, that's cool. Anyway, shout out to you guys. Shout out to California. I also see listeners from Seattle, Washington. Shout out to you guys. From Colorado, I see people from Fort Collins, Colorado, and from Parker, Colorado. Shout out to Colorado. Oh, so have the people? Oh, you know what? Speaking of Colorado, right? So have the people in Colorado ever been to like the Four Corners Monument? Isn't that the place where like those four states touch? There's like four states. It's like Colorado, New Mexico, Utah, and what's the last one? Arizona. And like they all come together such that like all four of their corners touch, and there's like a monument for it called like the Four Corners Monument. I've always wanted to go there. Like maybe one day when I get some extra cash, I can like go travel there with my sister and my mom or something, and we can go to that monument. That's so cool. Hopefully, I wonder if the people in Colorado that's listening, I wonder if you guys have ever been to there. That's pretty cool. Um, oh, and by the way, if anybody like in the podcast ever wanted to like interact with me or like talk to me or chat back with me to any questions and stuff, I'm gonna start leaving like what is it called? Like a little URL for you guys to like put like comments and like feedback and stuff like that in the description of the episode and stuff. So I'm gonna start doing that just so you guys can like talk back if you want to talk back. Usually the people listening on YouTube just leave comments on YouTube, but just anybody listening in like Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google Play and stuff like that. So yeah, shout out to y'all. If I just shouted out a city that you're from, yeah, feel free to hit me up or like talk to me about it. Also, I want to give shout outs to the international people as well, because outside of the USA, there are 9 other countries around the world that tune into my podcast as well. And I just think that is cool as heck. Like that is so dope. That's so cool. Like I really want to give a shout out to you guys too. Um, I'm sorry in advance if I don't pronounce your city correctly. Like I'm sorry. English is my first language, so I'm so sorry in advance if I don't know how to pronounce like your country's city or whatever. But yeah, anyway, let's continue with the international shout outs. So in Europe, I see someone in Hesse, Germany, or Hesse, Germany, Hesse, Germany. Shout out to you, and I see listeners in Baden Württemberg, Germany. Sorry if I mispronounced it, but yeah, shout out to you guys. Shout out to Germany. I got actually in my Instagram messages once someone from Germany, really giving me praises about my podcast and how he really enjoyed it. And if that person that hit me up on Instagram is from the city that I just shouted out, once again, thank you so much for your support. And shout out to you. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys. I'm really happy you guys enjoy listening to me and what I have to say and stuff like that. Shout out to you. Also in Europe, in Norway, I see we have listeners in Rog Rogaland, Rogaland. I saw someone in the comments in YouTube from in the YouTube comments for my podcast from Norway. So yeah, if you're that listener, shout out to you. Shout out to Norway. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, shout out to Norway. Thanks for showing love, everybody. I see listeners from Andalusia, Spain. Oh, shout out to Spain. I went up to like Spanish 3 in high school, and my first job had a couple of Spanish speaking people. So shout out to Spain. Can I remember any Spanish? My first job, I worked with a couple Spanish people, and also I went up to Spanish 3, and like I just said, I went up to Spanish 3 in high school. So, do I remember any Spanish? Okay, let me think. Gracias para, how do you say listening? Gracias para escuchando por mi podcast. Um, yo te agradecer. Is that how you say I appreciate? Yote Agritisera, I think it is. I basically, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm basically trying to say, thanks for listening to my podcast. I appreciate all of you, and in Spanish. That kind of flopped a little bit, sorry. But yeah, anyway, shout out to Spain. But basically, I was trying to say, with what I tried to say. I was just trying to say thanks for listening to my podcast. I appreciate you in Spanish. But yeah, shout out to Spain. Thanks for tuning in. I've always wanted to actually go to Barcelona, Spain. That sounds pretty fun. I want to travel there one day. Um, but yeah, in the Caribbeans, I see listeners from Kingston, Jamaica. Shout out to you guys. I also see someone in Australia as well, from New South Wales, Australia. I see listeners from there. Shout out to you guys. I see listeners from Karnataka, India. Shout out to India. Shout out to you guys. I see listeners from Brazil in two places. I see listeners from Mato Grosso do Sul in Brazil, and I see listeners from Minas Gerais, Brazil. So shout out to Brazil. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to South America. Um, um, if you're listening to this and you listen to my podcast on YouTube and you didn't get a shout out from like your city and stuff, I'm sorry, because the listeners, like the analytics on my YouTube channel, it doesn't show me like where people are from and stuff. But yeah, shout out to the YouTube listeners too as well if you're listening to this on YouTube. But if you're listening to this on any other platform, well, not even like just whoever, even if I didn't shout you out and you're listening to this on YouTube, shout out to you guys too. I honestly just love all of you guys. Thank you guys so much for listening in and tuning into my podcast. Like, it's just so amazing to me that like in the USA, I have listeners from all over the country in literally like 14 different states. And I even have international listeners in like 9 other different countries other than the USA. Like, so that's just so cool to me. Like, thank you guys so much. And I really cannot stress enough. Like, I really appreciate all the love that you guys give to my podcast. Thank you guys so much. Anyway, let's get into today's video. Well, not video, podcast or episode. Let's get into today's episode. In this episode of my podcast, we're going to do something a little different and take a little detour from what we usually do. Um, I know I usually give like hot takes and stuff like that, and I will be doing that in like in a majority of all the episodes of my podcast. An overwhelming majority, I give like hot takes, opinions, and blah blah. But in this episode, I'm gonna take a little detour, and I'm going to talk about me, my life story, give you guys a little background about myself. Um, I know like in the past I've like given you guys little tidbits of information about myself, but I do want to give you guys like a little bit of background about myself. And I'm also going to talk about like, just my life story, and like, talk about my life story with you guys, and you know talk about what prompted me to want to start this podcast. Even though I already talked about it before in the first episode, in the first introduction, I'm going to talk more in depthly about other things that wanted to make me start this podcast as well. So this episode of this podcast is all about like my life story, myself, me, and a lot more about myself that I usually like share and stuff. I just want to like, talk about me and my life to you guys. Okay, so let's get started. My name is Ashley, like I said, but you guys can call me Lee. Um, I'm 24 years old. I was born in Tacoma Park, Maryland. I grew up in Bowie, Maryland. All my life, I lived in Bowie, like born and raised, until I moved to Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Upper Marlboro, Maryland is like 10, 15 minutes away from Bowie. It's literally like one highway exit away from Bowie. Um, Even though I was born in America, I am of Cameroonian descent. Cameroon is a country in West Africa. So yeah, I'm of Cameroon descent, and Cameroon's like right next to Nigeria. It's in West Africa. It's like it's neighboring Nigeria. So yeah, I'm of West African descent, Cameroon to be exact. My parents are immigrants who came from Cameroon to America when they were like in their mid 20s. So I am a first generation Cameroonian American woman. My dad is an accountant. He's really good with numbers and like thinking in terms of like arithmetic and math and stuff. My mom's a nurse. She's a registered nurse. Really, really smart lady. She's an administrative supervisor for the nursing home that she works at now too. So she's very, very smart. Very forward thinking. She's a great administrative person in nursing and stuff. And a registered nurse. So she's awesome. Um, so like I said, my parents are from Cameroon. My mom is the oldest of five brothers and sisters. My maternal grandmother, which is like, my mom's mom, she's my grandma. She has five kids. She had five kids in Cameroon, and like my mom is the oldest of those five kids. So my grandma was married to my grandfather, and they had five kids all together, and out of all the five kids, it's three girls and it's two boys. So those three girls and two boys are my mom's brothers and sisters, and all of those brothers and sisters are my aunts and uncles. And out of those five kids, out of the three girls and the two boys, my mom is the oldest. um my mom's dad, which is the grandfather, um my mom's dad, which is my grandfather, he was the son of the fawn. And let me explain what fawn is in Cameroonian like culture. So like okay, so first of all, as I explained my family tree more, I decided to like make a diagram where it shows my family tree because it's gonna start getting a little like intricate. So yeah, I decided to put like a link of the picture of my family tree into the description of this episode. So yeah, you can follow along if you like scroll and like you look into the description of this episode. Um, there's a picture of my family tree if you need to like follow along. But let me explain like what the fawn is in Cameroonian culture. So, this was all happening in Cameroon. My grandma met my grandpa. They had five kids, and the oldest of the five kids was my mom, and my grandpa, he was the son of the fawn. Now, the fawn in Cameroonian like culture, and when I say fawn, I mean fawn like FON. Not fawn like, oh, I'm fawning over you, or like, fawn like, no, like fawn like FON. F as in Frank, O as in octopus, and as in neighbor, like FON, fawn. The fawn is this thing in Cameroon where you're like the chief or king of, or like traditional ruler of like a specific region in Cameroon. And yeah, so it's the fawn is like, it's kind of similar to like the governor of a state, or like a congressman, or like a senator for a state or something. My grandfather's dad, which was my great grandfather and my mom's grandfather, he was the fawn of Fasungu. So he was a fawn in a region of the southwest province of Cameroon, and he was given the title fawn of Fasungu. So yeah, that was his thing. He was the fawn of Fasungu, my great grandfather. I can't remember what region it was specifically, but I just remember it was a region in like the southwest province of Cameroon. So the way like the fawns work, it's like a monarchy kind of. So like the son of the fawn is like the next fawn or whatever. Like whenever the fawn, like the son of I'm sorry. Like, let me re-explain myself. So, like, it's kind of the fawns kind of work like a monarchy. So, like, whenever a fawn either retires or dies, like whichever one comes first, the son of that fawn is now the next fawn. So, like, if you're a guy listening to this and you're a fawn, then that means that like if when you have a son, either when you die or when you retire, whichever one comes first, your son is like the next fawn. So that's basically how that works. It's like a monarchy, basically. So and okay, so as I continue on, this is the part where you might want to follow along in like the thing that I uploaded so you don't get confused about like my family tree. So I'll give you like a couple of seconds to like pause the podcast and click on the link to like look at the family tree just so you can like kind of understand and explain, like just so like as I'm going along you don't get confused and stuff. So just be sure to look in the family tree and stuff. So I'll give you like 10 seconds. Okay, so yeah, hopefully you looked at the link and like yeah clicked it and stuff, so just so you can follow along with the family tree. So my great grandfather was the Fawn of Fasungu, and he ruled a region in the southwest province of Cameroon in, like, I don't know, like, I think the 1950s or so, like around that time. I do not know his name, but I know he was the Fawn around that time. And him and his wife had many kids. But out of all of those kids, one of those kids was my grandfather, Michael. Okay, so it was one of he had a lot of kids. Him and his wife had a lot of kids, but out of one of those kids was my grandfather Michael. Another one of those kids was my grandfather's brother. So there was Michael and his brother. Remember that. So since the Fawn is set up in a monarchy like way, after the Fawn like retired around like the 1980s or so, the Fawn's son became the Fawn of Fasungu. So the Fawn's children was my grandfather Michael and my grand and Mike, all of Michael's siblings, including his brother. So one of the siblings, which was my grandfather Michael's brother, became the Fawn after my great grandfather, which was Michael's father, after he either retired or died, whichever one came first. So Michael's brother was the Fawn. So like he was the Fawn around like the 1980s to like I think what 2010. I don't know, like for a really long time, like either the 1980s, 1990s to like 2010, and then he either retired or died, whichever one came first. I can't remember, but yeah. So my grandfather's brother was the Fawn. So yeah, Michael, my grandfather, he met his wife, which is my grandmother, Grandma Anastasia. So Grandpa Michael and Grandma Anastasia, they got married and they had 5 kids. Those kids were, my mom, like I said, and all of my mom's siblings, her brothers and sisters, which are my aunts and uncles. So Michael's brother, um, the Fawn, my grandfather Michael's brother, the Fawn, he met his wife as well, and they had a lot of kids too. Out of like Michael's brother, the Fawn, and that Fawn's wife, they had a lot of kids, and out of those kids was this man named Nicasius. That was his name. Nicasius is the Fawn's son, and that's Michael's nephew. So that's my grandfather's nephew. So since that's my grandfather's nephew, and that would be my mom's dad's nephew, so Nicasius is my mom's cousin. You see why I wanted you guys to follow along in the family tree? Like it's gonna get a little confusing. So yeah, just to reiterate, Nicasius is the Fawn's son, and that's Grandpa Michael's nephew. So that's my mom's cousin. So in present day, like today, Nicasius is now currently the Fawn of Fasungu, and it's now known like the name of it, it's now known as like the Fawn of Fasungu in Guazong, I think. Fasungu in Guazong, I think, yeah. So yeah, that's the name because he's an Nicasius. Okay, yeah. So Nicasius is currently the Fawn of Fasungu, and it's now known as the Fawn of Fasungu in Guazong. It's now no longer known as the Fawn of Fasungu. It's the Fawn of Fasungu in Guazong. So I guess Nicasius added his last name to the Fasungu part. I don't to after the Fasungu part. I don't know. But yeah, so my mom's cousin Nicasius is currently the Fawn of Fasungu. And actually you guys can look it up on Google. Like you just go on and you look Fawns of Cameroon, it's there. Like it's on Wikipedia. Like, and remember it's Fawn, like Fon, like F as in Frank, O as in octopus, N as in neighbor. So yeah, Fon, Fawns of Cameroon. And if you look it up online, it's on Wikipedia. If you look on Wikipedia, the list of fawns in Cameroon, I think in the you should see like the fawn of Fasungu in Guazong. His name is Nicasius. That's my mom's cousin and also basically my uncle. So yeah, he's a fawn, and all of the descendants of the fawns and stuff. Yeah, so you guys can like look it up on Wikipedia too if you guys want to see it. It's pretty cool. You can check it out. But yeah, if you look at the list and you see fawn of Fasungu in Guazong, the fawn Ficasius. I mean, sorry, the fawn Nicasius. Yeah, that's actually my uncle, basically my uncle, because he's like my mom's cousin. So, yeah, I call him uncle, even though your uncle is supposed to be the siblings of your parents and not the cousins of your parents. I still refer to him as my uncle. But yeah, so if you look it up on Google, fawn Nicasius, the fawn of Fasungu and Guazon, that's my mom's cousin, which is basically my uncle. So that's pretty cool. Just a little tidbit of information about me. And all of the descendants of the fawns are seen as like royal people, including my mom and like all of my mom's siblings, they were seen as like really cool people. Like even my like really like royal people. Like even my mom's dad, he was the like Michael, he was the brother of the fawn. So they were seen as like really cool people, and it's like really high status in Cameroon to be a descendant of the fawn. And so everybody who's a descendant of the fawn in Cameroon in that area is seen as like very like high status essentially. And the way it works, like I said, it's like a monarchy. So and also even in regards to like the monarchy, all of the descendants of the fawns are seen as like royal people, including like my mom and her kids and stuff, which would be my sister and myself. So yeah, in Cameroon, I am the descendant of a fawn, which is like the equivalent of being like I don't know, like a senator's daughter, or like for the international people, like a certain area of like a country, if there was like a ruler of that certain area of that country or a certain area in the province of that country, like being the daughter or something of like someone like that, like it's seen as like really high status. So just being related to someone in that sense, and like being, you know, related to that person, it's seen as very high status. So yeah, that's the really fun fact about me. I'm the great granddaughter of the fawn of Cameroon. I mean the fawn of Fasungu in Cameroon. And if you look it up online on Wiki, the fawn Nicasius in Guazong, that's my mom's cousin, which I refer to as my uncle. Even though he's my mom's cousin and not my mom's sibling, I still refer to him as my uncle. But yeah, that's a little, you know, tidbit of information about me. I am the descendant of a fawn in Cameroon. So yeah. So my mom and my dad, you know, getting back to like getting back on topic about like, you know, my family and my life story and like my history and just, you know, sharing you guys my life story. So yeah, back in the day, my mom and my dad in Cameroon, um my mom met my dad when she was finishing high school, kind of on her way to college in Cameroon. My dad was like a couple years older. He was in his early years of college, and my mom was like just finishing up high school and stuff. And so my dad would like court my mom, kind of court her and stuff near this beach in Limbe, Cameroon, which is my mom's hometown. Limbe, Cameroon, it's spelled like Limbe. If you guys like want to like look it up and stuff, it's like this beach place in Cameroon. It's kind of like a beach town and stuff like that. It's called Limbe, Cameroon. That's my mom's hometown. And it's like a place that kind of has like really good like my mom would tell me how they have great seafood because they live right next to the beach. So my dad would always take my mom to the beach and like, you know, court her, you know, with the intentions of wanting to like, you know, marry her. Now mind her, this was like way back in like the 1980s and stuff. So like yeah, so when they were both still in Cameroon. So yeah, my dad would court her near the Limbe Beach, I think. I think it's called Limbe Beach, whatever the beach is called, in Limbe, Cameroon, which is my mom's hometown. It's in the Limbe's in the southwest region of Cameroon. Um Limbe yeah, so my mom, my dad, they both decided that after they get married, they're gonna immigrate to America. So, you know, my dad immigrated to America, and then, you know, he was waiting for my mom to come too. And my mom immigrated to America like a year or two later. My dad, when he immigrated from Cameroon to America, he originally came to DC, Washington, DC, which is right next to Maryland. And then he moved to Silver Spring, Maryland. And then my mom came and joined him like a year or two later, and then they moved to Tacoma Park. That's like Tacoma Park's like 30-ish minutes from where we live right now. Anyway, it's like 30 minutes away, I think, not from Upper Marlboro, I believe. But anyway, my mom and my dad, they then had, you know, my big sister. And then they all lived in an apartment together in Tacoma Park, my mom, my dad, and the big sister. Then after a couple of years, they bought a house in Bowie, Maryland, and then they had me. So, my parents started off having a good marriage, but eventually they broke up. My parents would tend to argue sometimes, and I noticed that in elementary school and middle school and stuff, but I kind of brushed it off and didn't pay attention to it. I was like, oh, whatever. But after a while, yeah, they pretty much broke up. So basically, my dad moved out during my, I think, junior year of high school, my 11th grade. He moved out. And, you know, as I've gotten older and I've, you know, developed more like, adult relationships with my parents, and they've spoken to me from both sides about their marriage to their parents, I think I can conclude that they're really just both not ready for each other. I mean, not ready for each other, but just they're ready, they're just not right for each other. I think that they would be a lot better off with other people, and they themselves both realize that they're not good for each other, so they just need to, break up and move on and blah 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 and stuff like that. And they both are just kind of flawed. To be honest, I would say my dad is a little more flawed. My mom has her flaws, but I definitely, just looking at the situation objectively, I think my dad has a little more flaws. My dad kind of has some issues dealing with like his anger. He kind of has a little bit of a temper. You can kind of tell after living with him, just like as his daughter. Like, he's a great guy. Don't get me wrong. Like, he's totally awesome. He's a great dad, but he kind of has a temper. Like, he definitely has, some anger. And like, you can also tell sometimes, like, just like hang out with my dad, um he's not like used to, like, people challenging his ideas and stuff. Even if you're bringing up like valid points about his behavior, or like the way he made you feel, like, oh hey dad, you kind of made me feel this way when you said this or when you did this, he'll kind of just like ignore it or push it away, or like wait a couple weeks until it blows over. But he never like actually like says sorry, not to me, my sister, and not to my mom. Like, my mom even told me, like, he doesn't say sorry in our marriage. He never said sorry when we were married. And I was like, well, like, um yeah. And him and my mom, they had many issues before. So my dad and my mom, they broke up, and my dad moved out. And I mean, I'll explain like that a little more in detail later in the story and stuff. But yeah, they just weren't right for each other. They're not meant to be. Just really hearing it from both sides, they're not meant to be. And I don't only want to talk about the bad parts, because that will leave a bad taste in you guys' mouth. Like, you know what I mean? Like, when like, it's not that you necessarily hate a person entirely, you just kind of disagree with what they've done and stuff like that. Like, I don't hate you entirely, I just kind of disagree with like the things you've done in the past. It's kind of like that with my parents. Like, I love them wholeheartedly. There's just certain things that like they've done that like I'll hear from the other parent and I'm like, ouch, like that sounds kind of sucky. So yeah, I don't want to only talk about the bad parts, because that will leave a bad taste in y'all's mouth and stuff. So let me list out some of the good qualities before I continue on with the bad. And I'm gonna get to my mom too in a second. So my dad, he's really cool. He's worked really hard to get to where he's at, immigrating to this country and working hard, getting on, just being an accountant, working in jobs stuff and stuff like that. And, all the things he's done, like he does people's taxes. He's a really smart guy. Um, he's really cool. He's worked hard to get to where he's at. Like I said, he's really encouraging. He always encourages people to like do the best they can. And he's pretty funny sometimes too. And he's a loving guy. And also, I want to talk about my mom as well. Like I said, I was going to talk about my mom too, since I said like, just talk about both sides of the story in regards to like marriage and stuff like that, and like their relationship, and just who they are as people in general with my parents and stuff. Now, I definitely do think, like I said, my dad was like kind of like, even though they're like both kind of have their issues, my dad's was just kind of like worse in my opinion, or kind of like, worse. But I mean, even still, with my dad being worse, that doesn't mean my mom is like completely innocent or completely easy to deal with. Like, my dad probably isn't easy to deal with, like relationship wise, but my mom definitely isn't either. Even though my dad's kind of like a little worse, my mom's not easier to deal with either. So let me talk about my mom. And like I said, I want to bring up the good parts and not only the bad. My mom is literally like the sweetest, kindest, most loving, and most hardworking person I know. Like, she filled me and my sister Joyce up with like so much love and joy in our hearts when we were growing up. But as I grew up, I noticed like something was always a little off with her, slightly. Like, and when I say off, I mean slightly off mentally. Now, mind you, she's very high functioning. But if you were to hang out with her like a lot, like as much as I do, like if you were to live with her for years and stuff like that, as much as I do, you'd notice like she's a very, very high functioning person, but she has a very slight mental disorder. And you would only be able to notice if you've like lived with her your whole life, like I have. Like, if you were like talking to her in like a grocery store, you wouldn't be able to notice. But if you hang out with her like as much as I have, and you've lived with her your whole life, you would definitely notice she has like a slight mental disorder, or like slight like, like yeah, disorder or whatever. and or mental illness, if you will. And as I've like, okay, I'm nobody to like self-diagnose or whatever, but I do try to do my research because I try to make sense of things, and I'm like, okay, I wonder what this could possibly be or what this thing could be. You know, I've done a lot of research and stuff on like mental health and mental illness and mental disorders, and I've come to the conclusion, and I'm literally not joking, guys. I'm being honest to God, dead serious, and I have examples to back it up. I think my mom has a mild case, very, very mild, because she's very high functioning, but a mild case of schizophrenia. Now, when it comes to like mental disorders, like I said, I'm nobody's like self-diagnosing person, but just living with her, seeing her mannerisms, seeing her things and stuff like that, you could like she's very high functioning, like I said, very loving, very sweet, did everything that a mom is supposed to do, and regardless of her mental issues, she always raised me, raised my sister with the utmost amount of love and passion. She always provided for us, and stuff like that. She was such a sweetie, and to this day she still is, but I genuinely do believe that she has a very mild case of schizophrenia. Now, when it comes to mental disorders, they're a spectrum, kind of like autism is a spectrum. People say like autism and being on the spectrum, like it's a spectrum and stuff like that. Like it's not very black and white. It's like a spectrum. It's like it varies. I think my mom it's a very, very mild case, but it's still there. Like it's not to the point where it's like she can't function in without assistance in society. Very high functioning, but it's a spectrum and it's very mild for her, but it's still there. Like even though she's high functioning, like I said, like if you were to just have a normal everyday conversation with her right now, or even if you like worked with her for years, you would never be able to tell. But if you live with her, you'll see some of the things she does, and then you'd notice like, okay, something's kind of off with her a little bit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, for example, and these are the examples that I said I was gonna bring up. Let me give some examples. So she'll say things like, okay, one time, right? She thought there were ants in the chair in the living room. So sometimes back, she would like spray the chair. I kid you not. She would spray the chair in the living room with bug spray because she said that there were ants in the chair poking her. And we looked and looked and looked for days and days and days. There were no ants in the chair. And she also thinks that she has to like boil water, and she only drinks hot boiled water because she thinks she has to boil the bacteria, quote unquote, that there's bacteria in the water that she's allergic to, quote unquote, and if she doesn't burn the bacteria, she's going to pee too much. She thinks that there are people that like she thinks that okay, and also like she dishes her own food after we cook, and she puts it in a separate container and stuff in the fridge, and like separates her food and her milk and her orange juice. Like she'll buy separate orange juices because she claims that like somebody could possibly like contaminate the food and stuff like that, like when we're not at home, or somebody could come in the house and contaminate the food when we're not at home, and that she's gonna get allergic and she's gonna get sick and stuff like that. So she does all that because she wants to ensure that like her food and her drink in the kitchen in the house is like quote unquote safe. And also sometimes she thinks people are out to get her and like out to get her money. So even when we're in the house, like I can understand not talking about like money, like if you're like out and about, because that's dangerous. Like if you go and like you're out and about, you're like, oh hey guys, I just got 500 in my account, and like you announce that, then what if the person listening to you, like what if the people listening to you like kind of like follow you home from the store, and like they like have a weapon and they like put a gun to your head, like give me the 500 now, blah blah blah. Like you know what I'm saying? Like it makes sense to not talk about money like in public, but we could dead ass be at home by ourselves, like with nobody else around, right? And she'll be whispering very quietly every time she talks about her bank account. Like literally she'll be like this. She'll be like, Ashley, I think that I just got paid today. So I'm gonna have to I was wondering if you could go to the account and you could like transfer some money to my savings because blah blah blah. And I'll be like, Mom, why are you like whispering? And she'll be like, I just don't want my neighbors to hear me, and I don't want them to know that I have all this money in my account because people are watching the account. So if they know that, there's a lot of money, they might try to steal from me. and stuff like that. Like she'll literally say stuff like that. Like she'll literally say stuff and she'll be like, she literally thinks that like she'll whisper very quietly because she thinks like the neighbors can hear her, or like people can hear her if she talks about her bank account. And those are just a few of the multiple examples I can talk about. Like, there's also stuff I've seen as well. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna actually, let me even bring up some more examples. Like, just based off of a lot of the stuff I've seen from her and a lot of like my research that I've done, I do genuinely believe that she has a slight amount of schizophrenia or paranoid schizophrenia. Like, if you just hang out with her whole life, like I have, you can tell something's up. She has a slight illness or something. But like I said, she is extremely high functioning. Like autism, schizophrenia is a spectrum, and she's very high functioning. Like the people that have worked with her for years, her close friends, the friends that she has in church, I doubt that they know that she has it, and they've known her for years. There's people that she's known in church that she's known since before I was born, that they've been going to the same church for 30 years, and they've known her before I was born, and I'm 24, and they would never have suspected it. You can literally only see it if you literally like live with her. Like, you would never know, even though she's very high functioning. But I will say that like her mental health has never got like in the way of her love for me and my sister. Like, her mental health has never got in the way of her love for us. So like, even though I guess like I guess that's why like me and my sister came out like normal, quote unquote, if you not normal, not to say that like having a mental issue is like abnormal, no offense or anything like that. I don't want to offend anybody that could be possibly listening to this that could like have a mental issue or a disorder or could be on the spectrum. I don't want to offend anybody. That's so yeah. But I guess that's why me and my sister came out like without that many issues, because despite all of like her slight, mental issues and like her being kind of off a little bit, me and my sister came out, pretty chill. Cause I know like there are so many like people that were like, I grew up with a bipolar mom and I grew up with a schizophrenic dad, or I grew up with someone that in my family that had borderline personality disorder. And I went through so much because they were so this and that. And they hurt me in so many ways that, emotionally and blah, blah. My mom has never laid a finger on me. She's never put her hands on me. She has said hurtful things sometimes and rants, and we've argued sometimes. And I have addressed that with her. And I'll probably talk about that later in another episode and go more in depthly in it later. But, she's never put her hands on me. But she's still like a very loving and sweet and kind person despite that, to me and my sister. So I guess that's why we came out quote unquote normal, quote unquote, despite her mental health issues. For lack of a better word, normal. I don't mean to offend anybody, like I said. But also let me give some more examples in addition to the other examples I just said. Another example, here's another example of the stuff that she does. Sometimes she puts rubbing alcohol on her like face and cheeks and stuff like that, because she claims that like there's bacteria on her cheeks and that she needs to like take it off. She also claims that there's bacteria living inside of her toes. So when she when she cleans her feet, I think like once every week or every 2 weeks, she will literally put bleach on her toes and wash her feet. Like, I'm not joking. Like, she will put bleach on a paper towel and like wipe it through with her toes, because she think like she'll put the paper towel, like that, the bleached up paper towel, the paper towel with all the bleach on it, and she'll wipe it through her toes because she thinks bleach is so strong that it will kill all the bacteria in her toes. She also thinks nail polish will like prevent the bacteria on her nails. She also thinks like sometimes she'll look inside it, like look in depthly into like a tomato or like other stuff when she's cooking, and she'll be like, there's bacteria in here, something's wrong with this is going to make me go to the bathroom, I'm allergic to this stuff is going to have an issue with my system, something's wrong with it. And it could be nothing wrong with it could just be like tomato seeds and stuff like that. And she'll be like, somebody's out to get me, there might be people like that are coming in the house when we're not here, putting stuff on the chair, maybe they're putting ants on the chair, maybe that's what it is, and blah blah blah. Like, she like, if you just were to like hang with her as much as I do and live with her and stuff, you would be able to see it. Like, she literally, I kid you not, she puts bleach on her toes. Like, it's about once every week or once every 2 weeks, but she literally takes bleach, puts it on a paper towel, and like puts it through her toenails and like just wipes down her toes and toenails with the paper towel bleach. And she claims that doing that is she does that because the bleach is so strong that it will quote unquote kill all the bacteria in her toes. And like I said, even though we did grow up with a lot of love in our hearts, and my mom was still a very loving person despite all of her issues, it was a lot to have a mentally ill parent. I mean, I didn't like I wasn't, I like I said, I love her so much. We were still growing up with a lot of love, a lot of like fulfillment. We got love at home. We didn't need to go and seek it from anywhere else. She loved us so much, and I really do appreciate that from my mother wholeheartedly. Truly, I do. But growing up with a mentally ill parent, like I mean, we didn't suffer as much as other people do with mentally ill parents, but that doesn't mean we didn't suffer at all. You know what I'm saying? Just emotionally, like I felt like it was a lot, and it was kind of draining because sometimes you'll see, I'll see my mom, or me or my sister will see our mom doing like self-destructive things, like, "Mom, why are you putting bleach on your toes? That can't be good to put bleach on your skin, period, because like your toenails and your toes is still a part of your skin, so that can't be safe. Or to put rubbing alcohol on your cheeks like repetitively, that also can't be safe." And she's not, like it's kind of sucks. Like I don't want to see her go through this and stuff like that, or having to like separate her milk from the food, or separate her food from everybody else's food in the house, just because she thinks, oh, somebody's going to be there, somebody's going to do something to it, blah blah, people are going to come when we're not here. It's a lot. And I'll definitely talk about that more in another episode. And I definitely will, but I will say we relatively did grow up pretty well, and we had a great time with my mom, and I love her so much. And yeah, I really do. But it is a little challenging to grow up with a parent that, not even to grow up, but just not, yeah, to grow up and to just like have a parent that clearly has like a slight mental, disorder, or a mental illness in a sense, or just to have a mentally ill parent. But nonetheless, she's very sweet, she's very loving, and we absolutely get along great. I really do love my mom, and I do. And I love my dad, but he definitely has temper issues, and sometimes I wish he knew how to apologize more to people when he's in the wrong. But I'll probably talk more about that in like another episode, because that in itself, like that whole topic of my mom, could easily take like 1.5 hours, which is usually the average time for my podcast anyway. So let's just keep going. Yeah. So, anyway, now let's talk about school. In elementary school, I went to school in Bowie. I was a really good student. Like, I always worked hard and stuff because my parents, despite their personal issues and my dad's temper and my mom's, mental illness, or her slight, mental disorder, they raised me very well. That's how I came out, today. They raised me very well. My parents always instilled in me from young how important school and education is. So literally, I was a goody two shoes, and not only in terms of school, just like in general, I was a really good kid. I don't like, do crazy stuff or do like bad things. I never really got like a phone call home and stuff like that. Like I was super nice to all the students. I got good grades. My parents explained to me how important education in school is and how I have to like work hard. So I did that. I was literally a goody two shoes. Like I got good grades. I studied hard. I read a lot of books, and just generally, I was like a good kid. I wasn't a troublemaking kid. I was super nice to all the students, all the teachers. I really cannot recall being mean or being hurtful or a jerk to like people on the average daily basis and stuff, or like being or like having like any serious beef with like literally anybody. I was so nice and I was super sweet. I was like the complete opposite of a troublemaker. I don't know. I guess it's because of how I was raised. I was always, such a sweet girl, and like I said, my parents, despite their flaws and stuff, they both raised me with a lot of love. And I had, a lot of fun with my big sister at home too. She was so sweet. She was great. We had a great time. I had a great relationship with my family, and I got enough attention and love from home, and that I never really felt the need to get it from somewhere else, or get it by lashing out or acting up in school just to get attention. You know what I mean? Um, For elementary school, like I said, I went to school in Bowie, which is where I lived at the time. Bowie is the suburbs and stuff. So I went to school in the suburbs. I was kind of a nerd, I was nice. I wasn't like way too shy, but I also wasn't way too outgoing. I was kind of like in the middle of that, wherever that is. So in the middle of like an introvert and an extrovert. I never really got into any like drama and fights and stuff. I was friends with like and like I was kind of like a nerd, like I said. I wasn't really like a popular person in elementary school, and I was friends with the other like non-popular girls too. I mean, I was acquaintances with everybody in my class, but I was mainly friends with like the non-popular girls. There was this one girl in our friendship group that was like semi popular kind of, because she got a lot of like male attention, I guess. Even in elementary school, like a lot of guys had a crush on her and stuff. I mean, I'll explain that in a little bit, but anyway, let's get back to what I was saying. In elementary school, I had a group of like 8 friends, including me. So like the group was like of 8 people, and it was me and those other 7 people. So we were a group of 8, and they were pretty cool. Some of the people in like the story, or even in the story in this podcast, have really distinctive names. So I've been like, I'm gonna like rename them as I go through like this podcast and stuff. And the names that I'm giving to you guys aren't their real names, just because like, I want to protect their security and stuff like that, because some of them have very distinctive names, and just, for security reasons, I want to, protect their identity and stuff like that. So yeah, I'll definitely be renaming them with like generic names for, security reasons. So I'll do a lot of that. I'm going to do that with a lot of people in the story in the podcast. I didn't do that with oh, excuse me, I didn't do that with the fawn Nicasius, though. The fawns, like the Nicasius, that really is him if you look him up on Wikipedia. But anyway, everybody else in the story, I'm going to give like different names and stuff like that, just for security reasons and stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna do that with a lot of people in the story for this podcast. So yeah, with the 7 people and stuff. So there was me, Nia, Shannon, Sydney, Daisy, Monica, Andrea, and Esther. Nia and we were like BFFs. Like, we were literally the best of friends. We lived like 5 minutes away from each other too. So yeah, we were like going over each other's houses a lot. Um Shannon was like my second BFF. We were cool and we hung out a lot, and we were also really good friends. Not as close as me and Nia, but still close, like still very close. And we were totally really good friends. Like, we hung out a lot. And Shannon, like, she had such an outspoken demeanor, and like not in a bad way. She wasn't outspoken in the sense of like being hurtful. She was just always like, she always just said what was on her mind, and spoke out about how she felt and stood up for herself. Like, she was outspoken in a good way. I was always like, I mean, even though I was in the middle of like shy versus like outgoing, I was always like, I would talk about how I feel sometimes and stuff, but I would never say anything that I thought would be like cause for conflict and stuff, I guess. So like, if someone said something hurtful to me, I would just be like, oh, okay, they're being hurtful, I'm just gonna walk away and ignore this, because I was so scared of like confrontation and conflict and stuff. I didn't want that. I just want to be nice and happy and blah blah all the time when I was a kid. So, and I didn't want other people to think I was being mean to them. But you know what, that's really like a dumb mentality to have, because they were mean to me first, so why shouldn't I, give it to them back or clap back or whatever? I don't know. I guess I wanted to. I guess like deep down, I wanted to do to them what they did to me, but like it just wasn't in my character to be that mean to someone. So like, I guess I like, as a kid, if somebody were to say something to me like on the playground or something, I would never like clap back. I was just so scared to say stuff like stick up for me, like, hey, don't do that because you're this and you're that, and you want to call me this or I'm going to call you that. And I don't know why I just never really stood up for myself. So I would just walk away and stuff like that if something like that happened to me. But Shannon, she wasn't scared at all. She was outspoken. Like, she wasn't scared to speak out about how she feels. She'll be like, hey, you hurt my feelings and you need to stop, and you're this, you want to call me this, okay, well, you're that. Like, she would give it to anybody. Like, she wasn't scared to speak out about how she feels. And before, when I was a kid, just seeing someone that outspoken, I would be like, oh wow, she must be really hardcore and tough, and oh wow, she's wow. But looking back, she was just being real and sticking up for herself. I don't think that's like a bad thing, and I didn't think that was a bad thing when I was young. I just always used to think, wow, she's so outspoken compared to me. But now looking back, she was just sticking up for herself, which, I mean, I understood that when I was young, but I mean, even still. But anyway, even though we were in a group of 8, me, Nia, and Shannon, we were like really close. We were like the big three, you know, like we were close, like we were like the trio, you know. Me and Nia were closer than me and Shannon, but still, me, Nia, and Shannon, we were all pretty cool. Um, there was this one girl in the group. I mean, we were cool. Her name was Sydney. She was kind of annoying, to be honest. It's been like 13 years since like I think elementary schools or whatever. So I mean, I can't remember entirely why I didn't like her, but I do remember this part. Okay, I didn't like her because I felt like she tried too hard and she was too like sarcastic in a jokey way, but her jokes were just annoying. Like it came off as condescending and rude. There were other reasons why I felt a way about her, but I don't know. I can't remember. I just kind of like, I guess, tolerated her because she was Shannon's friend and she was Nia's friend, and she was just friends with other people in the friend group. So I was just kind of cool with her. But I was like, girl, I do not know you enough for you to be disrespecting me and joking me in a condescending way like that. I would feel that way in my head, but I wouldn't say that because like other people in the group loved her. So I'd be like, okay, like like you know. Um, but anyway, Daisy and Monica and Andrea, they were all my friends as well. Daisy, she was pretty shy like me, but she was cool. She was cool to hang out with. She was cool. Monica was cool, but she was a little annoying because she was kind of like a Jesus freak and she spoke out about the Bible like too much. And now don't get me wrong, I am a Christian and I love God. I love our Lord and Savior. I'm a Christian, but I'm not talking about like just regular people who like Christians. I'm talking like Jesus freak. She was awesome, but she was a little bit of a Jesus freak, and it was kind of awkward. Like she spoke about the Bible like just randomly, like out of nowhere. Like she was just doing way too much. And like also, she had bad listening skills. Like every time you had something to say, she would cut you off and talk about something she wanted to say. Like one time, Monica was like, "Oh, the Bible determines everything." And then Andre, we were all in a group at recess, like all 8 of us, and Monica was like, the Bible this, the Bible that, the Bible determines everything." Mind you, we were like 11 or 10. Like we were like 11 or 10, and like Monica's just there, like, the Bible determines everything, and yeah, the Bible has an answer. Which I mean, yeah, no, the Bible does have an answer for everything, but Monica said the Bible determines everything. And then Andrea was like, well, the Bible does determine a lot of stuff and it does give answers for a lot of like people's trials and issues that they seek help with, but it doesn't determine everything. Like for example, it can't determine whether tomorrow it can't determine the weather tomorrow, and it can't determine whether a soccer ball is going to go into a scoring field as a soccer game. Like you can't look into the Bible and see what the weather is going to be for tomorrow. You can't look into the Bible and see what the sports scores and stuff are going to be for tomorrow and blah 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 and stuff like that. But it is helpful for when people are seeking, you know, God and stuff like that, but it can't determine everything. And I mean, no, not Andre. And Monica snapped. Like, excuse me. Like, Monica literally snapped. Monica stormed off saying that, like, Andrea's statements were disrespectful to Jesus and all this other stuff. Sorry, I'm just laughing because looking back, that is so wild because we were like, what, like 11? And we're getting to all of like this philosophical debates. Like it's wild. Like we were like 10 or 11. Sorry. I don't mean to get the funnies or the giggles, but like it's just funny looking back. Like I'm getting like that's so wild. That's so funny. Um yeah, but that's Monica for you. But she was cool besides that. She was awesome. She would just have her moments. And also she had bad listening skills because she would always cut people off when they're talking. Like, girl, let me finish what I have to say. Like, but anyway, looking back, it was just funny to think we were that young doing that. Or that she was that young doing that. But anyway, it's just funny looking back. But anyway, that's Monica. Andrea was cool, and we were friends, but we weren't as close as say like me and Nia. But Andrea and I, we were cool. Andrea was really close with Nia mainly, just kind of like how I was. But me and Andrea, we were more so like friends of mutual friends, and just because she was in the group and other people in the group were her close friends, so I just kind of followed suit. But yeah, but she was mainly Nia's friend. But we were still cool. We were cool. Um Esther was cool, but she was kind of a little clingy, to be honest. Like, she was great, but she was just clingy. Like, I mean, honestly, I think it's because she has two brothers and no sisters, and she's the youngest of her two brothers. And so maybe like, because it's her two brothers and then her as the baby. So I guess since she's the youngest of all of her siblings and she has no sisters, maybe like me and some of the other people in the group were like the only thing she had that was closest to sisters, or like the closest thing to sisters that she could have had. Maybe that's what it was. But I mean, she was cool, I guess. One time I went over this house and I went over her house and like we watched anime together. She introduced me to this really cool anime called Toradora. I think it's on Netflix, but I watched it when I was a kid and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I actually need to get more into anime. I'm looking to get into more like anime too, but I don't know where to start. And also, okay, well maybe when I put like the URL there, maybe you guys can suggest to me some cool animes that I can like get into and stuff. But anyway, yeah, back to the story. So it was me, Nia, Shannon, Sydney, Daisy, Andrea, Monica, and Esther. There were 8 of us. And we all had a great time. And however, even though I was friends with all of them, like I said before, I was closest with Nia and Shannon. And I was really closest with Nia. And yeah, we were the closest and we were like the best of friends, but yeah, we were just really cool. And like I said, we would go over each other's houses and stuff and text and hang out all the time. When I got my first cell phone, she was like the second person I texted, the first person being my sister. And like I literally used to have my like Nia's phone number memorized in my head. So yeah, like in school we had a great time. I had fun friends and it was cool. I don't really have too many bad experiences that I can talk about. I had a good time in elementary school. My teachers were fun. I had a good time. Oh, also I was in band in elementary school. I played the clarinet. I was in band and it was just really cool. Like I had a good time. But and also I was in choir in elementary school as well, so that was definitely really fun. Um but something I kind of noticed in school that was like out of all of my 8 friends, we had a great time and stuff. And Nia was like my best friend. And I was friends with everybody, but like Nia was like my best friend. And I was the closest person to her out of the entire group. The second closest was Shannon, but yeah, like still me and Nia, like I to me, Nia was my best friend out of the group. But even though Nia was the only girl I was the closest with, I felt like she was like my only BFF out of the group. But for Nia, me, Shannon, Sydney, and Andrea were all equally her BFFs out of the group, if that makes sense. Like she was the only person in that group that I considered her my best friend. But out of that entire group, the person that she considered as her best friend was me, Sydney, Shannon, and Andrea, like equally. Which I mean is fine. Like there's no like cap on like friendships that you can have. But I guess it's just because like I felt like she was my only best friend, but I was not her only best friend. You know what I mean? We both all had like 7 mutual friends in common, but like she was like my only best friend from the group, and I was only one of her best friends from the group. And I had like I had one BFF out of the group of 7, which was Nia, but Nia had like 4 BFFs out of the group, which was me, Andrea, Sydney, and Shannon. Which I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's not bad. Like, what you can't put a cap on like someone's friendship skills and stuff like that. People can literally be friends with who they want. It doesn't matter. But it's just something I noticed when I was a kid. And also Nia is really pretty too. Like she's like really gorgeous. She's very like pretty. Like when we were young, a lot of people thought she was really pretty, and she is. Um, she was the girl that a lot of guys had a crush on, even though the group that we had was the quote unquote non-popular girls. We kind of dabbled in between, like Nia, she kind of dabbled in between popular and non-popular just because like she was a really pretty girl and stuff like that. um she's gorgeous. She received a lot of male attention from the boys in school. A lot of boys liked her. And I noticed some of the boys who would sometimes like make like some of the popular boys, not all boys, but the popular boys who would like make smart remarks or comments about the other girls, like that would say stuff like that. They wouldn't make remarks or make those comments to Nia. I think it's because a lot of the boys liked her or like had a crush on Nia, so they never like picked on her in hopes that like Nia would like them back. So like some of the people would say like that, some of the people that would say like stupid stuff in class and school and stuff like that, they would do that stuff with like everybody and like all the girls, but they never did it with Nia. They also never did it with Shannon either, but that's probably because they were all scared of her because they knew Shannon was outspoken and Shannon's gonna clap back, like she'll give it to you. So if you try to mess with her, which I mean, I respect that. You gotta stick up. She stuck up for herself. That's I get it. What can you do? You gotta stick up for yourself. But yeah, I just noticed from a young age, no guy ever disrespected Nia, and she got a lot of like male attention. I guess a lot of boys had a crush on her. Um, yeah, so that's pretty much all I have for elementary school. Now let's talk about middle school. So yeah, so anyway, in came middle school in 2009. I finished elementary school in the 6th grade when I was yeah, so I finished elementary school in the 6th grade. I was Huh. How old was I? Because my birthday. Yeah, so I was 11 when I finished 6th grade. Then I went on to middle school in the 7th grade because my birthday's in October, so I would have been 11 when I started 7th grade, but eventually turned 12 in October. I was enrolled in the TAG program, which stood for the Talented and Gifted program. Um, and only certain schools have the tag program. Prince George's County, the county I go to school in, they changed their school district locations and stuff because usually you would go to whatever school was in your area or district within the county that was like closest to your house. But they changed the districting lines and the district lines. So like they changed like the locations and like the route for like the schools you go to depending on your house. Like they changed it a lot when I was over the summer that I was going from elementary school to middle school. So they changed the district lines. So for middle school, I had to go to like the school like 25 minutes away from my house in Capitol Heights. And Capitol Heights is kind of known as the hood. Like, I mean, no offense to like anybody listening to this, because I know I think it said I had a listener in Capitol Heights, but I don't think it's any secret that Capitol Heights is kind of known as the hood. Nowadays they're building like nowadays currently they're building more things in Capitol Heights, like more houses and attractions and stuff like Dave and Buster's and shopping malls and stuff. So they're trying to expand some of the parts of Capitol Heights and stuff to make it not look so like to make it not look so like dangerous and to make it look more like homely, so more people will like want to like live there and buy houses there. So I guess they're trying to do that to certain parts of Capitol Heights. But back in the day, back in the day, in those days when I was in middle school, it was still considered kind of like a hood, and it still is now. It's just certain parts that they're trying to do the attraction part to, and they're trying to attract people to live there. But there's still a lot of parts of Capitol Heights that is essentially like considered like the hood basically. Yeah, it still has its bad parts, and that's no secret. But yeah, anyway, I went to middle school and Capitol Heights and the hood part, and but that middle school had the tag program, so they the district like changings and stuff, and the relocations of the district lines and stuff like that had me going there 25 minutes away. And that middle school was kind of like how do I say this like nicely? Like urban, if you will. Like I realized very quickly that I was no longer in the suburbs. I was in the hood. Like I was in the hood. Like yeah, so I mean, like I always say, I have no issues with like people from the hood, or like if anybody from the hood is listening to this, no offense or anything. I don't hate you. I don't think of you as less of a person or as like a other just because of where you come from. I'm not judgmental like that. But just it was just a culture shock going from like the suburban areas such as Bowie to like the deep parts of like Capitol Heights. Like it was just a culture shock and stuff like that. And just yeah, it was just a culture shock. With the kids there and stuff, it was a culture shock. But before in elementary school, I went to a pretty diverse school in the suburbs in Bowie, race and ethnicity wise, and it was main and yeah, it was a school that the elementary school I went to, it was a school with all races and all minorities. But in middle school, it was pretty urban, and basically to keep a long story short, we went to school in the ghetto. I went to middle school in the ghetto. I went to middle school in the hood, it was hood and whatnot. And we went to school with, the people from the hood. and boy was it an experience. Like, it wasn't like anything I was used to. People would like get into fights in school a lot, and people would just like walk different and talk different from the things I'm used to and the things I see and stuff like that. But me personally, in middle school, I was the same as I was in elementary school, basically. For middle school, I was kind of a nerd and I was nice and reserved and stuff. I always got honor roll. I got good grades. I never really got into any drama. And of course, I was friends with, like, the other nerds, the other non popular kids and stuff. like, I became good friends in middle school with other people that lived close to me as well. Apparently, I wasn't the only one that lived in Bowie or had to go to middle school in Capitol Heights. There were other people that lived in Bowie and had to go to middle school in Capitol Heights as well. Um, there were two girls that lived close to me in Bowie, Amanda and Samantha. So Amanda and Sam. Sam and Amanda and I, we became super close and we were really cool. But Amanda and I became best friends out of the three of us. It's kind of like a me, Nia, and Shannon situation all over again. It's like me, Amanda, and Sam. Like we're all cool, and we're all close, and I'm cool with Amanda too, and we're close and stuff. But the closest was between me and Amanda, honestly. But yeah, Amanda and I, we became the best of friends. Like even closer than me and Sam. Even though all three of us were friends, Amanda and I were best friends. We were the closest. She was totally awesome. I really liked her. She was really sweet and she was literally my best friend. She was so sweet, so kind. She was great, and Sam was too. And also something kind of like a kind of drawing a couple parallels from elementary school to middle school. I noticed like kind of like Nia in elementary school. I noticed that like Amanda got a lot of male attention because a lot of like all the popular guys liked her, and even some of the non-popular guys really really liked her. Like all of the guys thought she was so pretty and had a big crush on her. And there were like these two guys on the bus. Oh my god, Benjamin and Dorian. They were like either cousins or related in some sense because one of Benjamin's parents was close friends with Dorian's parent, or one of Benjamin's parents was either really close friends with one of Dorian's parents, or one of Benjamin's parents was the brother or sister of one of Dorian's parents, or something like that. Either they were like cousins, or their parents are just really close friends, or something like that. But either way, they were really close. They were like two peas in a pod in middle school, like the best of friends. But like on the bus ride to like school and in class, they were literally like the center of attention on the bus. Dorian was like always the center of attention on the bus, and so was Benjamin. They were always cracking jokes, doing dumb shit with other people in our class and stuff like that, and also on the bus with people and stuff like that and whatever. And sometimes they would like joke around with us in a ridiculous way, but sometimes in a slightly condescending like mean-ish way, like middle school mean humor and stuff. Like in middle school I would wear like these K-Swiss shoes that I really liked. K-Swiss is this brand that I liked their shoes in middle school. So in middle school I would wear these K-Swiss shoes that I really liked. And Dorian, he would wear like these expensive Jordan sneakers and the $200 Jordans, and these really expensive Nike shoes and stuff. And one time on the bus, Dorian came up to me and he was like, "Girl, you still wearing them crusty ass K-Swiss sneakers?" And I was just there like, yeah, okay. Like I would always brush off their remarks, and even back then I didn't know how to clap back or stand up for myself. I would always just ignore it and walk away. I don't know. But even with Dorian and Benjamin stuff, they always like in our class and in our like area in the school, it was almost as if like they like not ran the school or like ran the area, but they were very popular, and like they were like the center of attentions in their groups and stuff like that, and in class and stuff too. But despite all this and all of their quote like slightly, not even slightly, sometimes very obviously condescending remarks, um even despite all of that and stuff like that, they would always be nice to Amanda, kind of like it was with Nia in elementary school. Despite all that, they were always really nice to Amanda, and they were never mean to Amanda. Like Amanda, she was really pretty, like she was gorgeous, she was so pretty. Like I said, and the people on the bus that always mess with me and sometimes mess with Sam and sometimes other people, they never messed with Amanda like that. Like Benjamin or Dorian, they never messed with Amanda like that. Like they did, but like they did, but it was very very like seldom, like never, like they never messed with her like that. And even if they did on those seldom like times, like and stuff like that, like barely, like out of those small amounts of time that they did, it wasn't even that bad. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't it wasn't even that bad. But it was just the same situation as Nia in elementary school. They were nicer because they had a crush on her. And so, like in the eighth grade, okay, this is gonna sound. Let me just say. So in the eighth grade, we went from seventh grade and all that happened. So we went to the eighth grade, right? So Benjamin and Amanda dated for like a month or so. Like they were boyfriend and girlfriend for about a month or so. Okay, and this is like kind of weird to me personally, but I don't know. Maybe they didn't care, but was weird to me personally. So like Benjamin and Dorian, like, I mean, no. So remember how I told you, right? Benjamin and Dorian were either like cousins because their parents were either like siblings or close friends. Like their parents were either like really, really close besties or close friends. I can't remember, but I just remember they were super duper close. Like Benjamin and Dorian, they're like really close. They're either cousins, but regardless of whether they're related or not by blood or whatever, they're really close friends, right? So, like, Benjamin and Amanda, they dated for a month and they were boyfriend and girlfriend. Then around the very end of their relationship, like before they broke up, like a week or two before they broke up, or before like anybody initiated kind of like any breakup and stuff like that, Dorian texted Amanda and said, I want you to break up with Benjamin because I want to date you and I really like you and I want you to be my girlfriend. But it's like, Dorian, isn't that your best friend and your close, like, family friend slash possible cousin or whatever? Like, that's so awkward. How do you date, like, your best friend slash close family friend or whatever they were related to, but they were still best friends? How do you try to, like, date your best friend's girlfriend or try to like come on to your best friend's girlfriend when like that's just so weird, like that's so awkward. Like how do you try to like date your best friend's like literal girlfriend? Like how do you go behind their back and secretly message them like, yeah, you should dump them and get with me and blah blah? Like that's so awkward. Like, how do you see them dating and then you're just like, yeah, no, even though you're my best friend, your girlfriend should be dating me instead. Bye. Like, bro, that's your best friend's girlfriend. Like, that's just awkward and weird to me. Like, you guys know what I mean? But I mean, what do we know? We were like 13 or 12, like, you know? But anyway, Amanda was basically, she texted him back because she told me the whole story on the bus the next day. She texted me back and she was like, oh, no, Dorian, I can't do that because I'm literally dating your best friend, Benjamin. And after Benjamin and Amanda broke up, Dorian asked Amanda out again like a week or two later, and Amanda said yes. So I mean, I know this sounds like ridiculous drama, but like, because we were literally like 12 or 13. What the hell did we know? Like, you know, but whatever. I'm going to continue with the story. So, yeah, anyway, Amanda and Dorian started like dating like a week or two after after Amanda and Benjamin broke up. So now Amanda and Dorian are dating. And when Amanda and Dorian started dating, Benjamin didn't say anything. I mean, if I assumed he would feel away because it's like, bro, what the fuck? Like, you're my best friend. How can you go behind my back and tell my girlfriend that she should leave me? But then again, I don't even know if Dorian told Benjamin or if Amanda told Benjamin. I don't even fucking know. And like I don't know what he said or what he said when he felt away, or if he would see them like if he would see like on the bus Dorian kiss Amanda on the cheek on the bus. If he saw it, he didn't say anything. And if Benjamin felt away, he sure didn't show it. But anyways, back to the story. That was just an interest. I mean, we were 12 or 13. What the hell did we know? But I always thought that was kind of like interesting, funny, kind of weird. But whatever. Anyway, let's get back to the point. Dorian was so nice to Amanda on the bus. He was so kind to her, so sweet to her. He would always mess with other people in like a jokeful way, or like other like slightly condescending, jokey way that was kind of like you were the butt of the joke and stuff like that. Like not Dorian pushing you out to be the butt of the joke and stuff like that, and always trying to mess with other people. But he never messed with Amanda, even before they were dating, while they were dating, after they were dating, like always. Like he was super nice to Amanda when they dated. I always noticed that too. Like Amanda was like the girl that a lot of guys had a crush on, and I was Amanda's friend, and a lot of guys would come up to me and be like, "Oh, bro, Ashley, can you like talk to Amanda for me? Can you give me Amanda's number? I'm interested in Amanda. Can you put me on to blah blah?" And like I was always like, I don't know, I guess like the mediocre looking friend on the side that like guys would try to get to as a way to kind of like segue into like getting with Amanda. Now, none of the guys that were the popular guys or whatever, they were never interested in me. Some of them would just try to use me to try to get to like Amanda and stuff. And also, even after Dorian and Amanda broke up, they were always still nicer to Amanda. And all like Dorian and Benjamin, like they were always so nice to Amanda. She never got messed with, none of that. Like also Benjamin and Dorian and all the other popular guys, they were just so nice to Amanda. Like all the popular guys that would usually mess with other people, they were so nice and sweet to her. And Benjamin and Dorian, they were also nice to these other three really popular girls. Their names were Kenya, Alexis, and Danielle. They were always super sweet to them. And actually, before Dorian and Amanda dated, Dorian and Danielle dated. They were so nice to those three girls. Kenya, Alexis, and Danielle, they were like the three prettiest girls in school. Like they were three girls that everybody, all the guys wanted to date, and all the guys had a crush on, and they were the three girls that those three girls that everybody liked, everybody thought was like so pretty. Like all the popular guys would always talk about them being the hottest three girls in school and stuff like that. And every popular guy that was known for being kind of annoying and rude-ish to other girls ended up being super duper nice to those three girls. I would always notice it. Like, like Kenya, Alexis, and Danielle, to me personally, just from interacting with them and seeing with them, like in class and all this other stuff, and just like at lunch and just where I would see them and stuff, and like they came off as like, okay, no offense, but they came off as kind of like ghetto and ratchet. And also they came off as like kind of like just really rude and attitudinal for no reason. Like, but they were just really like hood and stuff. But they also came off as like just rude and just like just mean for no fucking reason. Like it was giving like it's really giving me like Regina George. It was giving me Regina George. But whatever. I mean, you're a product of your environment. So if they grew up in the hood, obviously they're gonna be like in like that, I guess, like from the hood, and they're gonna act hood because that's where they're from and that's what they know, whatever. Um, but yeah, they were pretty like attitudinal. Like, I mean, I didn't know them personally, but just from what I've seen, like at gym class, at assemblies, at lunch, they had crazy, just bad attitudes. But I guess guys put up with them and just always kind of like, you know, sucked up to them because I guess they were had a crush on them and because they thought they were pretty or whatever. Yeah, but to me, they just kind of had crazy attitudes and kind of bad attitudes. Like, and Kenya, she was always getting into fights. Like she would get suspended a lot. She was getting suspended left and right. She was always fighting people, like literally getting into not only in addition to like argumentative fights, literally physical like fights with people. She was always getting into fights with people a lot. And like, Alexis and Danielle, they would get attitudes with people in the hallway and stuff like that. And they kind of had bad attitudes that came off as aggressive to me. But that's just me personally. I don't really know them like that. But just based off of what I've seen, that's what I saw. But I mean, yeah, Benjamin and Dorian, they got along with those three girls. They got along with Kenya, Alexis, and Danielle and stuff like that, and some people in the class too. And Benjamin and Dorian, they were always really careful to never piss those three girls off or play with them in a condescending way or joke with them at all. They were always really nice to them. And all the other guys who were kind of jerks to everybody else were always, always nice to those three girls. And from that moment on, with Amanda like getting male attention, and even Kenya and Alexis and Danielle, and getting the attention that they got and the treatment that they got, the preferred treatment that they got, and even Neo from elementary school, I learned like from that age, like, okay, to some guys, not all, if you're cute to some guys are gonna treat you nicer, or if they have a crush on you, they're gonna treat you nicer. And like, I never hated Amanda; she was my best friend. But like, to be completely honest, I kind of like envied her because people would always be nice to her and be interested in her and compliment her with her out without her even having to try. Like, like she would like wake up and just go to school with like a natural face, and people be like, "Oh my god, I love your hair, I love your this, I love your that, I love your smile." And like here I am putting on, like, I mean, I didn't put on a full face of makeup for like middle school. I didn't even do it for high school. I'm not even like a makeup girl like that, like that. But sometimes I would like put on a little like eyeshadow and a little bit of lip gloss, like, just to be like, oh, I want to experiment with makeup. And plus my mom and dad, like they didn't want me to go into like I'm not about to be 12 going to middle school with a full face of makeup. Like my mom let me like experiment with it at home, but she never really let me like, she's like, okay, you're going to school in middle school, you got to look, professional, you can't be going like that. But she always like thought it was like really cute and really cool, like when I would experiment with makeup and stuff. But anyway, I'm getting a little too distracted. Let's get back to the point. But yeah, my mom was never discouraging with like makeup and stuff anyway. But sometimes I would like, oh, let me try like a new eyeliner, or let me try like a new like lip, do this, or let me do something this way, or do my nails, blah blah. And Amanda would come with like the same face and hair and everything and stuff like that. She would get all this attention. Like she wouldn't even have to try. Now, mind you, I'm not hating on natural girls. Like if you're natural, that's totally great. That's awesome. No shade. I don't care what people do, natural or not. I don't care. But people are gonna do whatever. People deserve to be called beautiful, regardless whether they're natural or not. Yada yada. But like, I just noticed, getting back on topic, I just noticed like she never had to try. And guys were always just like so nice to her. And she was just effortlessly gorgeous. But I just noticed that from a very like young age. And sometimes I would get envious. I'm like, dang, like I would be in my head. I would sit there in my head like, dang, I wish I got all the boys in school to like me like that. I wish I could do something. And it was the same thing with like excuse me. It was the same thing with Kenya, Alexis, Danielle. I always told myself that, like, honestly, I just like wish I could like get the male attention that they get. And like, I started like secretly comparing myself to them. Like my friend Amanda, and Kenya and Alexis and Danielle, and even my elementary school Nia, I looked at all these girls in my head, and I'm thinking in my head, like, I asked myself, what do they have that I don't have? And I started really looking at myself, like comparing myself to them, looking at myself versus them. I really started asking myself, what is so different about me and those girls that the popular guys treat them like royalty and don't treat us the same and don't treat us very nicely, or like ignore us, or like aren't as nice to us as they are to them. And I started comparing my appearance to them and all this other stuff. And I noticed like a couple things. Amanda, she was, light skinned. She had long, permed hair. And she was, slim, thick, kind of thinner. Not skinny, skinny, but just kind of thinner. And she, slim, thick, just skinny with some curves. And like, I mean, what am I talking about curves? We're like 12. But I mean, we're still, our bodies are developing, whatever. Like, she was, thinner, with a flat stomach and, whatever, like, nice body or whatever. I guess like for a 12-year-old, or a nice like frame, I guess for, whatever age we were at and stuff like that, or 13-year-old, whatever we were in middle school. And then Kenya, Danielle, and Alexis, they were all light skinned, really long hair, flat stomachs, and shapely bodies and stuff like that. They were slim, thick, or thinner. Well, Kenya was pretty thin, but I mean, even still, like, I think Kenya and Danielle and Alexis, well, Kenya and Alexis did cheerleading, and I think Danielle did dance, was in a dance group or something, but like they were, had pretty toned bodies or whatever and stuff like that. And also, they had nice bodies, and they were all like light skin, long hair. Kenya had dimples. They were very beautiful girls and stuff like that. And I started comparing myself to them and whatnot. And also Alexis, she, developed earlier, if you catch my drift. Like she had, even in middle school, she had huge breasts. Like she had really big breasts, and guys in my class would talk about her boobs all the time and stuff like that. And like, I guess I started getting like jealous, like of how guys would always call them pretty and always give them compliments. I would be like, wow, I wish those guys would give me compliments. I wish those guys would notice me. Like, there were stark differences in how they treated those girls versus how they treated me. Like, it was a lot of differences in how the guys treated like Amanda, Kenya, Alexis, Danielle versus like, and other pretty girls and stuff, versus how they treated like like me. And I always noticed that when I was a kid. And I never really like I wasn't like fat in middle school. I wasn't huge, but I had a little bit of a tummy. Um, I guess I wasn't like the prettiest girl in the school, I guess. Like I had dark skin. I literally have the skin tone of what you see on the cover of this like podcast. That's my literal skin tone. I mean, maybe one day I'll post a selfie. I mean, I know I said I would always keep this anonymous, but I'm sure one day you guys are probably gonna see me. I don't know. Maybe I'll post something. I don't know, just to show you guys what I look like, I guess. But anyway, yeah, I started like being, just getting like just jealous. I didn't hate them. I didn't hate the girls, but like I was always in my head like, dang, I wish guys would like treat me like that. So from there, I became fixated on male attention. I would just go on Facebook all the time and just kind of like stare at Kenya and Alexis and Danielle's pictures on Facebook because I was so like fascinated. I was like, they're so pretty, and I was so jealous of them. But I never hated them. I just wished I could look like them. But after a while, like, and wishing that I could be popular and fit in with the popular kids and the popular girls and be pretty and stuff like that, I realized to myself, like, man, what's so cool about being popular anyway? It's not like their shit doesn't stink. Popular people are just people. They don't have any more or less status than other people just because they fit in, or because they're considered cool and stuff like that, or they have fancy expensive clothes and shoes. And if they're pretty girls or cheerleaders, or if they're pretty, or if they're cute guys or jocks and stuff like that. Because or because they have like a lot of friends or stuff, like, or a lot of people think they're cool, like, so what? Like, they're just people just like the rest of us. It's not like their shit doesn't stink. Also, I used to want to fit in with the popular crowd, but after a while I was like, you know what, I don't care. I'm cool with making friends with people that like me and share the same interests as me, popular or not. So I roll with a lot of nerdy kids because I was a nerdy kid too, so it's like it's whatever. From there I realized, like, okay, I'm not the prettiest girl in school, and no, I'm not light skinned, but that's okay. Like, I still have good friends who, not to say there's anything wrong with being light skinned, no offense to any of the light skinned or fair skinned people in listening to this podcast. I was just saying like my experiences and stuff like that. But anyway, from there I realized I may not be the prettiest or the lightest in school, but that's okay. I still have good friends who like me outside of those superficial things. My friend Amanda liked me even though I wore like the Airwalks from Payless and Skechers, and I wore K-Swiss and not Jordans and stuff like that. And even I had braids in. I didn't have long natural hair. Sometimes I would wear an afro to school. I didn't have like the long permed hair and stuff like that. But I mean, I did from time to time. But but after a while, I did go natural, so I had a little fro and stuff like that. But either way, people, my friends, my real friends, they like me either way. And sometimes I had braids in too. But even though I didn't get male attention like that, I realized that like some of the popular kids or some of the guys that you're like, oh man, I wish I could have their attention, they're not even like worth like my time like that. Like, I sat down and thought about it once. Like, even if like Dorian or Benjamin or another one of the cool kids or popular guys, even if they were interested in me, would I even want to date a guy like that in middle school? Like, even still, like, would I want a guy like that to be my boyfriend? Like, why would I want to date someone who speaks to people that they're not attracted to like that, or speaks to people like in that joking, condescending fashion and stuff like that? Like, why would I care? Like, why would I want to hang out with people or date people that like spoke to people that they consider, like, why would I want to hang out with people that like treated people that they considered non-cool or non-popular like outsiders? And like, it's like, no, I wouldn't want to date a guy like that, just because he would be nice to me personally, just like he was nice to Amanda personally, and Kenya, Alexis, and Danielle personally, does not mean that, like, I would just ignore how he treats others. I don't know. But, but then again, to be fair, I don't even know if Amanda knew about how Benjamin and Dorian and or I don't know if Amanda knew, or Kenya or Alexis or Danielle knew how they treated other girls. I guess they just didn't notice because they weren't affected, because Benjamin and Dorian and all the other popular guys treated them so nicely. So I don't know if they noticed or not, but whatever. Um, yeah, I think some people just like, but I think the reason why some people like fantasize about like dating a popular person or wanting to date like a popular person in school is because they want to be considered like cool and stuff in school and want to fit in. I mean, who doesn't want to fit in? It feels good to like be validated, but you after a while you realize things like that don't matter. Like, like Also, I think some people just want to like I think some people just want to date the popular guy that they know is like kind of like a jerk deep down or a mean guy just so they can say like, "Oh yeah, we dated, but it didn't work out." Because it's easier to say something like, "Oh, he's interested in me, but he's not the one for me," than it is to say something like, "Oh, I'm clearly not his type. I'm obviously way out of his league." And like that. You know what I mean? Like it's easier to say the first one than the second one because it hurts to think that we're not good enough. But I guess it is what it is. I guess like whatever. But I do think that sometimes people just like they want to just date like a popular person. So if it doesn't work out, they can still say, I had a shot with them, but we just didn't work out. As opposed to being like, man, that person is way out of my league. I couldn't date them in my dreams. Like. But I think that's what it is. But whatever. It is what it is. They're gonna date who they want. Everybody has their preference, and I have to respect that. And like I said, I don't even need to fit in with the popular guys like that. There are other people who aren't popular but are down to earth, pretty cool and pretty chill that would like me for who I am. Like there's other non-popular kids and they're cool too. So why do I need to be so pressed over one popular group? They're not the only group in school. You know what I mean? So yeah, I moved on. So anyway, let's get back to other things in middle school. So I joined my middle school choir and oh man, we had a great time. That's where I met a lot of like my middle school friends and we had a lot of fun. Like they weren't like popular and stuff, but we had a lot of fun. Like we performed at school and like it was so much fun. Like we would practice, we would perform at school. It was great. We also performed at other places and we had field trips at other places too. Like we did Christmas caroling in DC. We also went to New York and saw this like musical with Jordan Sparks in it, and that was really fun. After the musical, we went outside and she made an appearance outside in the theater. And she signed all of our musical booklets and how like when you're like at an event or something or at a booklet or no, you're at an event or for anybody that's ever been to like a musical or a play, they give you like a little booklet or brochure at the beginning. Jordan Sparks, she signed all of our musical booklets and stuff like that, and like all the booklets that they gave us at the beginning of the musical, she signed all of them, and I took her picture. It was so cool, and I still have all those pictures to this day of Jordan Sparks in the flesh. It was so cool. I met so many of my friends there that it was great. Like Tammy, Sahara, Lexi, Taylor, Portia. It was awesome. And me and Lexi, we were totally good friends too. Like I loved Lexi too. She was awesome. And Amanda was in choir too. And we had a lot of fun there. Like we had a good time. I made good friends from there. I also met my first boyfriend there in the 8th grade. His name was Isaiah. We became really close friends, like literally the best of friends after a while. And like after, we became really close friends in the 8th grade, we kind of developed a crush on each other. And eventually he asked me out and we started dating. So he was my first boyfriend. He was so fun. He was also my first kiss. You know, we went to the middle school dance together and we broke up before the school year ended since we were both going to different high schools. But, I just, it was cool. It just goes to show you, like, even just because, the coolest guy in the school may not think you're cool, that doesn't mean that all the guys in the world won't think you're cool. One person's trash is another person's treasure. There were lots of other cool guys that were down to earth and nice that were interested in me and I was interested in them too. So, you just got to expand your palette and not always focus on, one type of group in school. But yeah, anyway, as I moved on to high school, I didn't really hold on to that many of my middle school friends just because they were so far away. But I did have a good time in middle school, like with all my choir friends. I had a good time. I was goody two shoes, like I said, and yeah. But unfortunately, after like middle school, when I moved on to high school, I couldn't hold on to that many of my middle school friends just because they were so far away. And I lived 25 minutes north from the school, and they lived close to the school or like even further down south from the school. So they were like really like far away, like almost 30 minutes from the house, which isn't like too far away, but it's far away compared to like my elementary school friends who were like literally 5 minutes from my house. You know what I mean? So yeah, we kind of grew apart anyway, and I would never see them around like at the stores and stuff like that. But I mean, I would still see them on Facebook because I created a Facebook in middle school, and I kept in touch with like all of them. And sometimes I would message them, and they would message me, and they'd be like, "Oh my God, how are you? How's everything going?" and stuff like that. We would talk, but eventually, as I went on to high school, we kind of grew apart. And also in middle school, as a black girl of African descent and going, and this was a predominantly black school, which is kind of interesting that this happened, but I'm a black woman of African descent. I'm a first generation American from a West African family. I have definitely had my fair share of xenophobic experiences. Like, sometimes I would pack African food. Sometimes I would pack African food for lunch, like okra soup, fufu, or I would pack eru and boiled plantains and stuff like that. Or hold on. Sorry, I had to go get the door because we just got a mail. Sorry, but anyway, let me continue. So yeah, I would pack like eru and boiled plantains and stuff like that, or okra soup and fufu, which is very common. Like those dishes are very common in Cameroon and stuff like that, or in West Africa in general. And like American black kids, like I said, I was an African black kid. Well, I mean, of course, I was American because I was born in America, but like when I say American, I mean like American black kids in the sense of black kids with American parents. I was a black kid with an African parent or like an immigrant parent, if you will. And like, so that's what I mean when I say American black kids. American black kids, like, they would just look at me funny at lunch and they would ask me shit like, what the fuck is that? That's so disgusting. Ew. Like, what the fuck is that, yo? Like, that's so weird. And shit like that. And it was expressed to me like their disgust for African food. Or they would laugh at other African girls with like ethnic names and stuff like that. Like when somebody had like an ethnic name in class, they would laugh at that. Like ethnic names like ethnic African names. Like a lot of American black kids, they would laugh at African girls with ethnic African names like Adiola, Aditeo, Abiola, Akinsoye, Oloatunde, and stuff like that. Like they would laugh at like a lot of names like that. But my middle name and my last name is an ethnic name. So when they say stuff like that, I would internally like take offense to that and get offended. Like for example, like you listening to this, right? Like for example, to the person listening to this, if you had on a purple shirt and someone said, "Oh my god, I think purple shirts are like so horrible and so ugly and stuff like that," you would get offended by that, right? That's how I felt when like American black kids would make fun of other African black kids' names. Like it was hurtful to me because I'm thinking to myself like, oh hey, they're making fun of African names and I'm African and I have an African name, an African middle name, an African last name. Even though Ashley is like an American name, my middle name and my last name is an African name. And I was just like in my head like, ouch. Like, okay, you know what I mean? And like, oh, and like another thing, okay, quick like intermission, quick side note, right? I don't get why immigrants on social media and immigrants on woke Twitter and stuff like that, or the American children of immigrants, for example, like the American children of like for example, how I'm an American child of an immigrant, like the children who the kids were born here, but the parents were born in another country. So the children of immigrants, I don't get why they like whenever they talk about their xenophobic experiences in America, I don't get why they act like it's just white people that are xenophobic. I would hear lots, dozens, gazillions in elementary school. I would hear so many American black people from my middle school and some from my high school when I went to high school too. They would say xenophobic shit. Like they would talk about how they think we speak in tongue clicks, like or stuff like that, like the tongue clicks, or like how they think we live in huts and shit. And they would talk about like how they think our tribal ethnic names like Areteo or like Babatunde or like Adiola or Akinsoya, Oluwadrina or stuff like that, Oluwa Lanri, Oluwa Kalunde or stuff like that. Like stuff like that. They would talk about how like they think our tribal ethnic names are just straight up gibberish. Some of them have names in different cultures and stuff like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like they would talk about how they think our tribal ethnic names are gibberish or how our names don't make sense. Like honestly, some of them are rude as hell, and they were black Americans with American parents. You know what I mean? So like, I see so many people online talking about their xenophobic experiences, and they would always talk about like white people and stuff like that, and they would always talk about how like they love like like being around like black people and stuff like that, and white people were the only race that were like different disrespectful to their ethnicity and stuff like that, and to like the fact that disrespectful to the fact that they're immigrants and stuff, and white people were the only people who did that. But honestly, in my experience, that did not match up with my experience as the child of an immigrant. Throughout my life, I've met both xenophobic black people and xenophobic white people. It had nothing to do with the fact that they're black or not. It had to do with the fact that they were American, or that they were the child of American parents. Just, I mean, I can't speak on everybody else and their experiences, but for me personally, it had nothing to do with white or black. It had to do with American versus immigrant. That was my experience with xenophobia. I've like literally from white and black. I've never, like, that's just my personal experience. I mean, I can't speak on everybody. You're gonna speak on what you speak out on, but in my personal experience, it's not just white people. It's just Americans in general, and they're American black people. So that's just my experience. But yeah, excuse me, that's pretty much sums up my entire middle school experience. It was fun. I met a lot of kids in choir. I had a good time, but as time went on, I kind of moved on from then, because like I when I went to high school, I went to a high school that was kind of close to my house and stuff like that. So there was that. So I kind of like, fell off with a lot of people from my middle school, but that's okay. Things happen. And yeah, I got great grades. I had fun at the 8th grade dance. I had fun in choir, and yeah, that sums up my middle school life. All right, so now that that's done, let's move on to high school. High school was fun. Like I had fun in elementary school, I had fun in middle school, and I definitely had fun in high school. High school was totally cool. Like I said, per usual from before. This is pretty predictable, but yeah, like I said before, I rolled with nerds. I hung out with nerds and stuff. I was a nerdy chick myself. I was still, a nerdy goody two shoes and stuff like that. Um, Nia from my elementary school, she went to my high school, so we became friends again. We fell off a little bit later after a while, and I'll explain that later. But anyway, high school was pretty cool. I was in SGA in the ninth grade, and in ninth grade, I started making friends. I became really great friends with this girl, Kennedy. She was cool, and she was kind of like, chill and reserved, and like a little nerdy too. So I thought that was really cool. I really liked her. And I had a crush on this boy, Tolu. He was African. He was so cute to me, because I guess I could like relate to him in like terms of being African. He was Nigerian, so like I could relate to like the West African. He was just so cute to me, and I noticed he would like give me lots of attention, and I guess I was just so flattered. Like I usually would see boys give attention to like the cute light skinned girls with nice bodies, and like I mean, even though I was kind of like a size what, like 12. I was size like 10, 12 in in ninth grade. So I wasn't like huge. That's not huge, but I still like just wasn't like skinny, skinny. But I mean, I'm not huge. I think I was pretty average in the 10th grade, but like I was just shocked because like, wow, I'm not as pretty as those girls, and like this cool guy is like, well, not that like I like determine like I'm whether or not the compliment counts as cool or not by whether or not the person is like, whether or not, what I'm trying to say is, when I said like, oh, he was a cool guy, I didn't mean like if you weren't considered cool or you were considered like a nerd and you compliment me, I'm not gonna like take it as seriously. I'm gonna brush it off because I'm like, ew, get away, nerd. Because I'm a nerd too. So like, I'm not gonna like, oh, I only like popular jock guys. Like, no, I like all guys. So it's not that this compliment mattered any more, any less, just because he just so happened to be like a guy that was kind of popular and stuff like that. But I just thought that it was really cool that he would like even like me. He wasn't even that popular. He was just some guy like on the basketball team that everybody knew. But we had class together, so he was pretty cool. But besides that, I didn't really like, I didn't like I just but it had nothing to do with the fact that he was on the basketball team or not and stuff like that. Like even if it was like a guy that didn't play any sports or didn't do anything or just pretty like chill or kind of nerdy too, I would still like him. I just wanted to put that out there that it had nothing to do with like that, but like whether he was popular or not. But anyway, yeah, I had a crush on this guy. His name is Tolu. He was West African like me, but he was from Nigeria. I'm Cameroonian. Well, I mean, he was born here, but ethnically, he was a first generation Nigerian. I was first generation Cameroonian. He was so cute. Like he would give me lots of attention, and I was just so flattered. Like I usually would see like boys give attention to like the cute light skinned girls that were thinner than me, and I'm dark skinned and a little thicker. So I never like realized like I never realized that like somebody could like think that I'm that beautiful or stuff like that. And I was never considered that beautiful or that hot by like a guy before. Like he was always complimenting me. And like Isaiah, my eighth grade boyfriend, he would compliment me, but like not like Tolu did. Like it was totally cool. But we never dated before. It kind of fizzled. But yeah, ninth grade was cool. Got reunited with this one girl, and I also became friends with this other girl, Kennedy. So I got reunited with Nia, and I also became friends with the other girl, Kennedy. I read like a lot of cool books and stuff like that from English class. I just got accustomed to high school life. It was pretty cool. I liked it. I really liked it. But anyway, in 10th grade, I joined the cross country team, and oh wait, before we even move on to 10th grade, about grades and stuff. And yeah, so like in terms of like schoolwork and grades, that like I was like a straight A and B student, like all A's and B's, like that. Good grades was never a question. I always get them. Like I worked really hard, studied so much, like I literally was like great in grades. But anyway, in 10th grade, let's go on to 10th grade. I joined the cross country team and I joined the track team, and I did that for the majority of 10th grade, pretty much for all of 10th grade, and for like some of 11th grade, not too much of 11th grade, but pretty much all of 10th grade and some of 11th grade. And 10th and 11th grade, I hung out with people from the track team, and like how like us track girls would wear like tight shorts and stuff. So I would get attention from other guys and stuff because I'm wearing like short shorts that kind of, highlight my butt. So I thought that was kind of flattering. And, once I became flattered by the attention, I realized that like, I kind of enjoy male attention. It's fun to feel desired, and it feels good to know that the opposite sex finds you attractive. I mean, like, I know I shouldn't be like basing my self esteem off of that, and I realize that, and I don't. But it just felt nice at the time. I was just really flattered. Um, yeah, I also noticed that certain girls in the school were perceived as like the prettiest of the prettiest, and like or like the most attractive of the most attractive. Like they were the top dogs, the head honchos of the pretty girls. Like like in the entire school, I realized that they all have like just analyzing them and stuff like that, kind of doing the. I mean, this is kind of toxic, but kind of like how I did before with Amanda and Kenya and Alexis and Danielle, kind of comparing them to me, and like I noticed that they all have the same thing in common. They're slim, thick, with flat stomachs and nice breasts and perky butts with an hourglass figure and stuff like that. And a lot of them are light skinned girls or white girls and stuff like that. And they got the most attention from guys. And this was like, and there was this one girl, Nia. Not Nia, sorry, not Nia, Leah. Sorry, Nia is my friend that was from elementary school that we went to the same high school to. I'm talking about Leah. Leah, my friend Leah. Well, she wasn't really a friend. She was just somebody I knew, kind of an acquaintance. But we were cool. She was somebody I knew. Our birthday was like 8 days apart, so that was kind of cool. But anyway, um, yeah, there was this girl Leah, and I always like thought like I always wanted hair like her. I always like kind of envied her. Not I wasn't like I didn't hate her, but like I just always envied her in the sense of like she had such nice hair. Like she was biracial, and she had like this long curly flowy hair, and I always thought she had like the best hair ever. Like her hair was so cute. And Leah had this friend China. China was mixed too. She was biracial. Like, whoa, Leah is black and Asian, and China's black and Latina. So yeah, so Leah had this friend China, and China was mixed, and she had long curly hair too, and they were both like really pretty with amazing hair, and they got like a lot of boy attention. And like I envied them so much, like in terms of like their hair and their looks and stuff like that. And they were just so cool to me, and like they received a lot of attention too and stuff, and they just had like nice bodies and stuff like that too. I always thought they were so cool, and they were best friends, but I always thought they were like so freaking cool. But anyway, so I guess those like middle school feelings of me kind of being envious of light skinned girls with those body types kind of came back up again in high school. And in high school, like I said, I was like a size 10, 12. I think the highest I got to was 14 in like my senior year, but I wasn't like huge at all. Like I was a little thicker, but I wasn't like fat. I was just thick. That's it. Like I wasn't even fat. And like, I was just pretty much thick. I had a little bit of a tummy, and I was dark skinned, and my hair was usually in braids or weave or something. And sometimes I permed it, but I think I went back natural again in high school. So sometimes I would wear an afro, but I never had like naturally flowy curly hair. Like my hair was always coily and in an afro. If I'm wearing my hair naturally with no perm and stuff. Like if I wanted to get my hair curly like those other girls, I would have to like put a weave in, like put in weave to do that, to make it look like that, because my hair can't do that naturally. So yeah, I would usually have my hair in braids anyways, but I kind of became kind of jealous of those girls, just because like I was just like, wow, I wish I could have the attention that they got from guys. So I don't know why, and please don't judge me. Like I don't know, like I'm just telling myself to you guys, but I became so like fixated on pretty girls, and I don't know why. I just had this obsession, and it still exists to this day. But every time I see a girl in school that would get like a lot of male attention, or a girl on Tumblr or Instagram that would like get a lot of male attention, I would just follow them and sometimes like save all their pictures to my phone. I know that sounds so weird, but like, okay. And then like I would create an alternative Tumblr account to look at the pictures of the girls as an inspiration. So I would take the pictures and save them on my phone, and then upload them to my Tumblr account, and then delete the pictures of my phone, so they would be like saved on my Tumblr account. And like it was like a private Tumblr account that like nobody could like access but me. I has like a passcode to get inside and stuff. But like, yeah, I would just like look at those girls and just look at the pictures of those girls as like inspiration of like what I wanted to look like, what I wanted to dress like, what I wanted my hair to be like, and stuff like that. And like stuff like that. Like I would just like do that. I have no idea why, but I did. And like eventually I guess eventually after a while I just realized, like, you know what, I have to learn to embrace myself and stuff like that. And I still do have the Tumblr page that I had for that to this day, like literally to this very day as we're speaking. But I mainly just use it as like inspiration for like fitness and hair and makeup ideas and outfit ideas. And now I mainly just upload pictures of pretty girls on Instagram where I like how they look. It's kind of like a Pinterest board. I just kind of save them because I like to look at pictures. I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird. I'm sorry. Okay, like just I know you guys are probably gonna judge me for that, but whatever. Yeah. Sometimes I use it for like, I guess I just look at it for like inspiration for like fitness and hair and makeup ideas and outfit ideas. And nowadays I just upload pictures of pretty girls on Instagram and how I like how they look and stuff like that. I don't know. Like I said, it's just like a Pinterest board. Like I have a Pinterest too, but I guess it's just kind of like that. I don't know. Don't judge me. But yeah, I guess that was just kind of weird. But I used to do that in high school and like stuff like that. I guess I got fixated on them. But nowadays, like I said, I mainly just like upload like pretty girls on Instagram or influencers on Instagram that I see that I'm like, wow, like she's so cool. Like I love this picture. Let me just like upload it to my Tumblr. Whatever. But it's a private Tumblr, so you guys probably won't be able to, it's an alternative private Tumblr, so you guys will probably never find it or whatever. Plus it has a password to get in. But anyway, let's get to 10th grade. In the 10th grade, me and Nia, we were cool, but we kind of fizzled. Like we were no longer friends. She would hang out with all of these like other people, which is bound to happen because it's high school. Like, you know what I mean? But in my head, I was just like, dang, I wish we could go back to like how things used to be when we were kids, and like how it was just me and her hanging out. But that's pretty selfish of me to ask. I guess, like obviously for growing up, we're going to branch out and meet new friends and stuff. I guess it's just because I didn't know I had friends outside of like I knew I didn't have friends outside of school like that. So I know that if I lost her, I would have lost like my only friend. Well, like not like my only friends, because my other friends from school in like I would mainly only have friends during class. But when I say my only friend, I mean like my only friend in the sense that like my only friend that like I hang out from her outside of school, because all of my other friends I only hang with them because of the circumstance. Like we circumstantially had like class together, or we hang out together like in gym or stuff like that. Like I only had friends depending on the circumstance, but I never had like any like go to your house friends and like go hang out with people friends outside of Nia. You know what I mean? So my only best friend, and best in the sense of like we would hang outside of the school, and we would literally text all the time. And I had people's numbers, but like we were just never as close as me and Nia. We fell off just because we drifted apart and stuff. So I was like, dang, that was the only friend I had um outside of school. But I mean, It's whatever. I guess it's whatever. People drift apart. People move on out like all the time. Also, like I said, I eventually quit track and cross country like in like the early stages of 11th grade just because I didn't care for it much. And also I wanted to do other activities outside of school. Um I wanted I wanted to have more time for homework as well, and I wanted to do other activities outside of school. Like I was in 11th grade, so I was about to be 16, so I could start getting a job and stuff. So after I quit track in the 11th grade, I got my first job at Burger King. And I didn't like it because the coworkers were kind of like mean to me for no reason. Like I would ask a question and they would be like, "How do you not know that?" And I would just be like, "Dude, I literally just started. Can you help me?" And there was this one girl, Jessica. Ugh. She was so mean to me for no reason and she treated me like I was an idiot. And I just don't understand why, like, even though I didn't do anything to her, I would just ask questions when I was confused and she hated me. And yes, because she was cool with a lot of the other coworkers. So since she had a good like standing with them, after a while the other coworkers didn't like me because she didn't like me. I guess they just like followed like sheep or whatever behind Jessica. And I don't know. They just like they were just rude to me or pissed off of me every time I asked a question or every time I commented on something that they would be like, wow, she's so annoying. And I'm just like, what the fuck did I do? Like they would just show that they're obviously annoyed with me and it was so annoying and rude. And I didn't even do anything. But I mean, yeah. Oh, and I don't even think I forgot to say this because I brushed over this. But yeah, I had my first job at Burger King. It was just terrible. I didn't like it. The coworkers, I mean, even honestly, and it wasn't even the customers, it was the coworkers. They were just mean for no fucking reason. And I literally didn't even do anything. Like I'm a very reflective person. Like I can reflect on things and be like, okay, I understand that I was in the wrong here, I was in the wrong there. I get why I made so and so feel away, so on and so forth. But in this particular scenario, I didn't even fucking do anything. Like they were literally just being haters. Like they were so mean. And all I did was ask a question. It's never that serious. Like the fuck? Ugh, it was so rude. But every time I ask a question, every time I commented on something, they would say that I'm being annoying and I didn't even do anything. And there were these two guys, oh my god, James and Kyle. They were being rude to me and they were just like they were just mean to me. Not mean, but like, well, yeah, mean, but just like in a joking way so it can come off like they're just joking or being sarcastic, but they were still being snarky and rude. And I didn't appreciate that. You know what I mean? They were nice and all like a lot of the time, but they would still joke around with me in a rude way. And like I wore my hair in an afro because I went natural after a while, and they would still make fun of me for it. And also, this one time, an African person came through the drive-through, and Kai was like, "Oh, Ashley, there goes your people. You should start speaking to them in tongues and stuff like that. Like you should start speaking to them like." Isn't that your language? Like, nigga, shut the fuck up. Like, what are you talking the like? You're just ignorant. What the fuck? But like, I hated all of the coworkers there. So I hated all my coworkers, and then I literally just did not like them. They were just terrible. So eventually, I quit that shit and I started working at Domino's Pizza. So I worked there from kind of like the middle of 11th grade to when I graduated high school. So yeah. So anyway, in 11th grade, my dad moved out of the house in Bowie. Also, yeah, so in 11th grade, my dad, he moved out from our house in Bowie to this house in Upper Marlboro. This is the part that I was going to say that he eventually moved out. Um at that part, even when he moved out, my mom was kind of switching jobs a lot because she was kind of in and out of a job or something like that. Or she was switching jobs like every 4 months or stuff. It was kind of she had an unstable job moment, and I don't know why, but because that's never happened to her before in all of her years of nursing. But because she usually had pretty stable jobs, but I don't know, maybe it was just some really bad luck and stuff like that. And something I've noticed from her, the way like her brain, like not that her brain, but the way like she like is, I guess this is just like a side effect of like her mental illness or from her like mild schizophrenia. From what I've learned and gathered from living and interacting with her in like the years that I've had all my life, she needs to be stimulated. Like she can't be idle doing nothing or else she'll go crazy. Between the times that she was out of jobs and stuff, she was in the house literally losing her mind. Like she would say stuff like phones are not allowed in the kitchen while we're cooking because something in the phones will translate bacteria in the form of signals to the food. Like the phones are going to send bacteria signals to the food. So we weren't allowed to have our phones within like a 5 foot radius of like the stove and like and in certain parts of the kitchen or even in the kitchen at all sometimes. You could not have your phones in that in the kitchen or in that area of the kitchen. Like, yeah, like you could have your phones in every other area in the house except for the kitchen. My mom was not with that, and I don't know why. It was just so weird. But I mean, eventually she found a job and she held that down for a stable, long time, a really, really, really long time. So she got herself back together, and she kept herself more stimulated. Which, I mean, after a while, like it didn't flare up. Her schizophrenia didn't like flare up as bad as it was before, so that's good. So anyway, then came 12th grade, which was senior year. I was pretty much chilling in 12th grade. I didn't do much, chilling, getting good grades, applying to colleges, getting ready for prom. That's pretty much it. Like I was working at Domino's too. The environment was so much better than before, and all the guys that worked there, they were so much nicer to me. I really liked them. They were awesome. And yeah, so I don't have much about the 12th grade. That's pretty much all I have to say. I went to prom and graduation, and yeah, I graduated, and that's pretty much it. Also in high school, I had some really fun classes. Like, even though I didn't really have friends outside of Nia, I still had like circumstantial friends that we would hang out in class, and it was fun. Like, I had friends in this one class, in ceramics class. It was basically like a pottery class. We like had so much fun together at our table, like making our little pottery stuff. Like, that's how I would get my social interaction. That's how I would like interact with my friends and stuff, through stuff like that. I didn't really have like out of school friends and stuff after me and Nia kind of split, but that was how I would get my social interaction and talk with people that like I consider my friends because they were close to me and stuff like that. Those are the people that I would like hang with, But besides that, I really liked that. I liked pottery, and I liked this one ninth grade class that we had. It was kind of like wood shop in a sense, and like we kind of made different things out of wood and stuff like that, and just building things and creating things in like wood shop, and creating things in like pottery class, and creating things like I had this one graphic designing class where we worked with computers a lot and graphic designing. I think that's when I realized like I really, really like engineering. And that's when I realized I really, really, really want to do engineering as my major in college. And side note, for my graphic designing teacher, my graphic designing teacher, she's the one who um did my, what is it called, recommendation letter for college, to the college that I got into, University of Maryland Eastern Shore, UMES. So that's pretty cool, and that's a little tidbit about me. But yeah, in terms of like friends in high school and social interaction, I mainly got like social interaction from pretty much like the people that I was like friends with like in my classes, but I didn't really hang with people outside of that. And I don't know why, but yeah, I had fun in high school. I went to all the homecomings, I went to prom, and yeah, I just had a relatively awesome time. So that was pretty cool. I liked high school. High school was totally cool. Then for college, I got accepted into the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, which is UMES for short. Yeah, that's where I attended college. I lived on campus, and sadly, a year into college, our house was backed up on mortgage payments. So our house back home got foreclosed, and it was really sad. I'm gonna talk about that later in another podcast because that whole story in itself will probably take like 45 minutes to an hour to explain. It was sad, but whatever. I'll talk about that later. So me, my sister, and my mom, even though my mom and my dad broke up, we had to move back into my dad's house because where are we going to be on the street? And we can't live with my mom's brother, my uncle, which lives down the street from us because, oh, side note, my mom's two brothers, they came to America too. A little bit after my mom came to America. But anyway, so we couldn't live with one of my mom's brothers lives in Texas, and the other brother lives like down the street from us, like 5 to 10 minutes away from us. But he has like three kids, actually four now, because there was another kid that was born last year. They have four kids, so that's a fully loaded house. So we couldn't live there. So we just had to move back in with my dad, or else, would have been on the street, and it was kind of wild. But anyway, I'll probably talk about that later in another podcast. But so me, my sister, and my mom, we had to move out. We not move out. Our house was foreclosed. We were kicked out, and we had to move into my dad's house in Upper Marlboro. But eventually, my dad moved out of the Upper Marlboro house because he wanted to live by himself, obviously. So he moved back into a little townhouse in Bowie, not the old house we had because the house was foreclosed, but another house, another townhouse in Bowie. So Plus, like, him and my mom broke up anyway, so yeah, like, he like moved out, but like, we still keep in touch, and he's still totally cool and stuff like that. So him and my mom, broke up. So where he lives now is like a small townhouse back in Bowie, while me and my mom and my sister, we now live in his old Upper Marlboro house, which is also a townhouse and stuff. Um, we're looking to move into a bigger house for me, my mom, and my sister this year. So like me, my mom, and my sister this year, we're all looking to move into a bigger house as well eventually. And by God's grace, that should be happening this year. Hopefully we'll put a down payment on a home and stuff like that. But anyway, back to the college story. I'm getting distracted. Um, in high school, I went to a lot of events my freshman and sophomore year, like homecoming. I went to almost all the homecoming events for the entire time I was there, actually. I went to other fun things happening around campus, like fun games, fun events, stuff like that. It was cool. I had fun with like people that were at those events and stuff like that. My first year, I had this roommate. Her name was Simone, and she was totally awesome. But after freshman year, we didn't see each other on campus much, so we grew apart. Um, I went to, like I said, I went to so many campus events and so many events on campus, but for some strange reason, I just couldn't make friends. And I don't know whether this was my fault for not making enough effort or something. Like, I don't know. I guess I just need to put in more effort when it comes to making friends, because I don't know. I guess I just wasn't like it was just like middle school and high school. Like, I guess I just like throughout middle school and high school, I guess I just like had circumstantial friends. So I guess that the same thing happened in college that did in middle school and high school. It's like I just had circumstantial friends and friends that I would only hang out with because we were in the same class or we were doing the same activity together and so like that. And that was like my social interaction. But I would only hang out with them during class or during that event or during like a study group or something, and not outside of that. I guess I just didn't make the effort. I don't know. And also, like, I was always kind of nervous in college because, like, what if other black people, well, not black people, but just like not only black people. I mean, well, I did go to a HBCU, but not even only other black people, but just other, like, well, obviously the HBCU was majority black, but not even other black people, not even black or white, but just anybody or stuff like that. What if other like woke people or whatever social justice warrior people, what if they didn't want to be my friend because of like my views and my ideas on hot takes and like life and society and political culture and stuff like that and things. And like, I mean, you guys have heard my views and opinions and things on this podcast. And I said, I've said a lot of the things that like I disagree with, that I've said a lot of the things that I disagree with that woke people like spew and say. I've spoken out about a lot of the things that they say and do that I disagree with and stuff like that. And so like if I go out and I make friends and stuff like that with like the wokesters and the woke black kids, so not even black, but like, well, since the majority of the woke people are like black, but I mean there are woke white people too, quote unquote. But just social justice warriors. Like if I go and make friends with like the social justice warrior people, are they gonna like how are they gonna view me because of like my views and opinions and stuff like that? You know what I mean? Like, am I gonna make friends if I have these views? Are they gonna judge me? Well, then again, like woke people and even black people and everything, we're not all the same. So I guess there's someone out there that probably has the same views as me, regardless of their race. Because I'm open to making friends of all races, because I've had friends of all races. And so I always got kind of nervous because like, what if black people view me to be like well, I hate this fucking term, but like a coon or an Uncle Tom. Basically, like I explained what that means and like what that meant in another podcast. But basically, it just means like a black person that doesn't like participate in like black woke groupthink, or a black person that like shares an unpopular opinion or view about something in the black community. They're seen as like a sellout to their race and stuff like that. So yeah, that's basically in Uncle Tom. Like they'll be like, "Oh, you hate your people and you're a sellout and blah blah." So that's basically what an Uncle Tom means in like woke terms. But like I'm scared. Well, not that I make my entire it's not that even that I make like my views my entire personality, because I don't. I have like a big personality. I'm cool, like, you know what I mean. But like I guess I just like I'm so scared to like make friends, because what if they view me as like a weirdo because of the way I think and all of my unpopular opinions on things and stuff. Not that I make my entire opinions and my views on things my entire personality, because I don't. But I'm just saying like they would obviously come out sometimes if we're friends and we're debating things and stuff. Not debating, not that we would even debate, but like just like they would probably come out if we're just talking about something, or like I wouldn't know how to make friends and stuff. But anyway, yeah, I guess I never really made friends, because like how am I going to with all of my unpopular opinions and views? I don't know how popular my opinions and views may be. You know what I mean? And Also in college, I became a little more one thing I did do is I became a little more open-minded to the people who grew up in different environments. I mean, I was never closed-minded before, but I meant just like meeting different people with different experiences. It kind of opened up my mind to things. I used to like kind of harshly judge people that were from the hood and stuff like that, or like, like urban places and like, people that was from the ghetto and stuff like that and the hood and stuff. But when I went to UMES, which is an HBCU, a historically black college university, I met people from, those areas who turned out to be very nice and pleasant people. And I mean, like, you can't just judge people based off of where they're from. So yeah, UMES definitely opened me up to like, that experience. And, even though I don't really care for like hood rat, the ghetto culture in general and stuff like that. I still like I don't think I think I still can't judge people just for how they grew up or where they're from. Like people can't help it. So I definitely got that experience and it kind of opened my eyes to not be so like, to not, be so closed minded in that sense. Anyway, my sophomore year of college, I tried to move into this place that had like individual rooms because I didn't want a roommate because I didn't want to share a room anymore. But I applied for housing too late that semester, so they put me in this random room with another person, and I had to share a room with someone for that semester as well. Her name was Talia, and she was cool and she was so much fun, but she was a little annoying. Like she needed constant attention, and she always felt the need to like one up me. Like have you ever met somebody like that? It's like, dude, this isn't a contest. Like sometimes if I'm like, okay, hey, I did this, she'll be like, oh yeah, I did that too, but I did that times 10 because like yeah, and blah blah blah, and I did that so much, like I did that so much, and I did it so many times, like oh my god, me too. But it was like so many times, and like I did that literally times 10, and blah blah blah, and I don't know, maybe she was just trying to be relatable, but still, like like I just found that to be a little annoying. I just felt like she would always try to one up people. And I mean, anyway, when she wasn't being annoying, we did have a good time. She was totally awesome. Like I said, I don't want to only talk about people's like negative quirks to them. I do want to talk about people's positive like quirks, if you will, or positive things to them, not only the negative, but I did want to like include that because it is kind of like my experience with her. But when she wasn't being annoying, we had a great time. Like she was still a good friend. Um we grew apart after like I moved out because I didn't really vibe with her like but she was still a great friend. It's not that there was like any kind of beef, she just wasn't my kind of vibe. She's cool and I had a great time with her. I'm not going to pretend like we didn't have a great time. She's an awesome person and she's lit and she's so much fun. Like we went to Ocean City together. Ocean City is like this beach that's like 30 to 40 minutes away from UMS. But anyway, Talia, she was so cool. And I went to her graduation party too because like I think she graduated like a year before me. But I mean, yeah, she was totally cool. I really liked her. She was lit and funny. She was a great friend. And there's no beef. She just wasn't really my kind of vibe. So we kind of, just kind of grew apart. But like I said, yeah, but best of luck to her. She graduated with like a degree in like biomed or biochem or something along the lines of biology and stuff. So, best of luck to her. So she's totally cool. She's awesome. I wish Talia the best of luck in life. We just kind of didn't vibe together, but that's okay. Best of luck to people. But anyway, like I said, my major was engineering. So as I moved on to like my third and I took 5 years in college, actually 5.5, but like as I moved on to my third and fourth year in college, like I said, my major was engineering, so I had engineering classes as I moved up in college, as time went on in college. I had those engineering classes with the same people and I got really close to these two girls, Charisse and Bianca. We became really close. Like I would have long study sessions and study groups when a test is coming up or when we have like homework due and stuff like that, and we would like talk, like we would like go over the notes we took in class and stuff like that. So the three of us would get together and we would study a lot. And also other people in the class would attend too, but me, Sharice, and Bianca, we became pretty close. Like we were cool. Like even in college, even in college, I was kind of known as the nerd again. But I mean, hey, whatever. But I mean, something that I think is kind of cool in college is like the high school like hierarchy and like groups and stuff like that. Like the popular kids, the non-popular kids, the band geeks, the nerds, the this, the that, the cheerleaders, the this group, the that group. They kind of like don't exist in college. Like you can be or you could be like more than one group. Like you could be a nerd who's also a jock, or you could be like someone in the chess club who's also popular, or someone in the debate team like that's something I love about college. Like all those little high school like cliques and cliches is kind of like over. Like, you know what I mean? That's something I loved in high school, and I guess that's why like I was so close to people that I considered to be like from the hood or something like that. Like something like just kind of interacting with them and getting to know them. I thought that was a really cool experience. That like, in college you hang out with people that like you probably wouldn't in high school, because like all of like those little cliques and cliches and stuff like that is over in college, and like we're all just here to focus on getting our degree and getting out and like getting a job and stuff like that. And like I always thought that was pretty cool, like how after high school and college, like you don't really have to worry about the cliques anymore. You just kind of vibe with the people you vibe with. I always thought that was really cool. But yeah, but even in college, I was still, the goody two shoe, good grades girl and stuff like that. And even in study groups, I was always like the one that kind of knew a lot of the answers, not all the answers all the time. We all make mistakes, and that's what we're in study groups for, to study and to, learn before we take a test and stuff like that. But I was like always the one showing like a lot of people how to do the problems a lot of the times, not all the time. Sometimes I needed help, but a lot of the times I was helping them. And, yeah. So, but anyway, interacting with these people, like, because after I moved out with, after I got my own individual room and didn't really see Talia much, after that I was kind of just like on my own. I didn't have friends around the campus. I was just doing stuff on my own. And how I got social interaction and how I got like quote unquote friends like that was through like study groups and through like stuff like that's when like sometimes even in the study groups, like we would take like 5 minute breaks, like, oh my god, tell me why, blah blah, and I did this today. And like we would just talk about our days and stuff like that, like how friends do and stuff like that. That's because we would do stuff like that, or like how friends do and like talk about their day, because that was literally like all the friends I have. I don't really have friends like that. So that was the only social interaction I would get, like in school and like during study groups. Like I didn't really have friends outside of that. But in the study groups, I was always like, that was the study groups and like the school, the classes and stuff like that. That was pretty much my social life. It was always circumstantial, like depending on the circumstance I'm in or who I'm around and stuff like that. And I would only hang out with people unless we were like we're doing something in school together. You know what I mean? But I mean, actually, and this is a good thing. Charisse actually told me that she wanted to meet up with me and Bianca for drinks soon, since we all graduated and stuff. So that's cool. So maybe I'll get a little more of a social life now. Maybe I can become closer to them and become close friends with them. So fingers crossed. Hopefully, we vibe and become good friends. Because also, in addition to like the session where I was talking about like, oh, like like what if they judge me for my views. Also, another thing is like, well, I don't even make my views my personality, and I only speak about it if spoken to or if asked and stuff like that. Another thing is like, you have to like vibe with the friend that you're trying to make friends with. If you guys like don't really vibe or don't click or don't mesh like that, we can't be like friends like that, because like we don't even like mesh or click. So hopefully like I vibe with them. I vibe with them in like school and class. So we probably hopefully we vibe outside of that, hopefully. Fingers crossed, hopefully we vibe and become good friends. But this time around I'll be sure to put the work in to become good friends. But because it's not only just fingers crossed, I still have to put in the work to be good friends too. Because I feel like looking back with all like the socials lives and all the events I went to like my freshman and sophomore year, I'm sure I could have met someone and been like, oh hey girl, like do you meet up with so and so, let's go get lunch together, or like tomorrow do you want to go get breakfast together in the cafeteria. Like I could have, if I made the effort, I probably could have. But I mean, shoulda, woulda, coulda. Maybe I was in between shy and outgoing. Like I was in between introvert and extrovert, like I said earlier. So maybe like maybe if I was a little more outgoing in that sense and actually did something about my loneliness, I wouldn't be as lonely as I am. But I am. So, but I'm working on that. Like Charisse really did want to meet up with me and Bianca, so we should be meeting up soon and like hanging out and stuff. So that would be cool. That would be like, because they seem like really sweet girls and they were totally nice. They like, I've hung out with them for like at least like a year and some change now in terms of like studying and stuff like that. Well, but this was before the pandemic, so we were really cool and stuff like that. So fingers crossed. I hope that we have a good time when we go out for drinks soon. Um, Anyway, in college I also attended I also like was in this group called LSAMP, which is basically like a STEM research program, where we do research for the school and we get paid a stipend. We go on research projects and we get paid a stipend. It's just for a lot of STEM students. And we did that internship. We did an internship with LSAMP um on campus over the summer. And that summer was the summer that I realized, like, in life, not only like on campus, but like in life, like in 2019, this was before Sharice like asked me out to get drinks and stuff like that. But like Sharice was back home because like she didn't have an internship, she was at home. But it was just me and like other people from the internship that lived on campus for the internship and stuff like that. And like a couple people that in college that didn't go home over the summer, so they would be there in the area that we were on campus too. And literally that summer for that with that internship was the summer that I realized I am truly alone. Like over the summer I took walks in the morning, and one time it just really like set in how alone I was that I just started crying. Like I felt so sad. Like I felt so sad. Like I'm sorry. I felt so sad. Like I have no friends, no one to hang out with outside of school or outside of like study groups and stuff like that. I mean, I hang out with my sister and my mom, and they visit me over the internship, like over the summer. They went down to UMES to come visit me, and we would go out and stuff like that a lot too. But like that was pretty much it. I don't have friends outside of my sister and my mom. Like literally, like I mean, over the internship, there were other people at the internship too, but they were working on different research projects. So, like, I mean, I would see them and like they were my acquaintances. We would say, hey, hey, but like, I don't know. It was just for me personally, I was the only person on the research project that I was working on. So that was it. So, like, I realized, like, I need to make like more friends. I just felt so lonely. Like, I felt so alone. And, and oh, well, I don't know. I felt lonely. Like I had social interaction with people, but like I realized like it's sudden like I don't have a BFF. I don't have a friend that I can like be like, hey girl, let's go do this together. Let's go do that together. Like I didn't have that. And I realized I haven't had that since me and Nia stopped hanging out. I haven't had a single friend over my house literally since me and Nia stopped hanging out. And me and Nia stopped hanging out when I was 15. At that time in 2019, I was let me think. 20 minus 20, 21 minus 23 minus 4. I was like 20, 21. I don't. Okay, 2019 minus. I'm an engineer. I'm supposed to be good in math, and I am good in math. But sometimes like mental math. Okay, hold on. Give me a second. So 2021, I turned 24. So in 2019, 2021 minus 2019 is 3. No. It's 2, but 2019, 2020. So 24, 23. I was 22. Okay. Okay. So I was about 22, and I was 22, and since I was 15, I have not had a single friend, like BFF friend, that like I can like go and be like, hey girl, let's go do drinks, let's meet up, like let's go party, like let's go have a good time. I would only always do that with my sister or my sister's friends. But like outside of school and outside of like study groups and stuff like that, I don't have friends like that. And I was just like, oh my god, like I don't know, like I that was just like summer. I realized I definitely need to make more friends, like definitely. So, well, before I continue on, let me explain like the timeline of my college. So, my college was from August 2015 to December 2020 for the most part. But in December 2020, which was like the fall 2020 semester, I failed a class and it was only available every other semester. So, when I failed it in fall 2020, I wanted to retake it in spring 2021, the very next semester, but I couldn't. I had to wait until fall 2021 because it's only available every other semester. And then also in December 2020, I had this senior design class that I took, and my professor didn't like how my partner and I did the project. So we had to like fix all the parts in the project that we didn't like before we turned it in. And then, that took some time too. So I really graduated December 2021 that just passed. But anyway, in March 2020, we did the pandemic thing. And since the university sent all the students home, but I personally still wanted to be on campus, I rented an apartment that was right next to campus, but it was considered quote unquote off campus housing. So, that way I could still be next to school because it's not considered UMES property. So I could still be on the school and stuff like that. But also like I did an internship, I did an online internship over the summer. But that was when I realized like, even still, that was when I literally realized again, like I have no friends. I would just do class, work, school, repeat, class, work, school, repeat. And then over the summer, I had a summer internship there. I mean, I still stayed because I was like, oh, like, over the summer on campus and stuff like that. But, sometimes I would have social interactions when I'm talking to my classmates about stuff over Zoom, or we're studying for an online test and stuff over Zoom and whatnot. But I would have social interaction there. I mean, I would also have social interaction like at my job, because I was working at this Subway at this gas station down the street from my school. But I just kind of like realized like I have no friends, like, you know what I mean, like I really didn't have much friends. And that's when I realized like I don't really have much of like a life in terms of like friendships, or I don't have anybody to talk to. Like I really looked back at my life at that point and I realized like I missed having friends. I missed having people over. I miss having like, because even like in school, even though like even in elementary school, even though Nia was the closest to me, Nia and Shatal would come over to my house sometimes too. Even like Esther sometimes, or like sometimes Andrea, and we would all come together like in a group and stuff like that. Like it just kind of hurt. Like I realized like I don't really have like friends like that. I missed having friends. I missed having people to talk to. And after Nia left, I haven't had a friend over in my house since then. That means it's been like 10 years since I've had a friend outside of school or work that I talk to or text like a lot, or like a friend outside of like the circumstance, you know what I mean? And like, I don't know. I guess what that's why like my social interactions with people sometimes mean so much to me, because outside of my job and my sister and my family and stuff, I don't have many people to talk to. Like literally, like I said during my 2019 internship, I went on a walk one time and I just started crying in the middle of my walk because like I have nobody to talk to, no friends, nothing. Like I mean, don't get me wrong, I do have social interaction from work and speaking to my classmates through text and Zoom during the pandemic, and also over the summer I had an online internship that I got paid for, so I spoke to like other people from the internship during the pandemic and stuff. But like still, like dang, I wish I had like friends that I could like hang with and stuff like that, like. And it just kind of sucked. Like I realized I don't have any friends, so I decided, I decided that this year I'm gonna start being more open to stuff, and I'm gonna start trying to be more open and social and make more friends and stuff. I'm definitely gonna try that this year. And one of my New Year's resolutions is to make at least one friend. And I'm gonna have to put myself out there like that. Like it's a little harder to make friends when you're an adult, but I'm gonna be more social. I'm gonna try more hobbies and to do stuff, go out more places and stuff like that. Like I'm gonna try and stuff like that. Like I'm definitely, gonna try. I'm gonna try to just do more things. I've been thinking about getting into like video games. I loved the video game Among Us. It was literally like the dopest game ever. Like I love that game, and I realized like I might want to get into gaming, and maybe I can look into gaming and look at like local gamers and stuff like that, and maybe like be friends with people that way, or maybe I could like go into like online local forums, or like meet friends or meet people, or just like go out with my sister and stuff like that and her friends. Cause I do go out with my sister and her friends too sometimes, and be like, oh, hey, what's your name? Like, oh, hey, let's vibe and stuff like that. Like, it's just, I'm going to be more social this year, and I'm going to try to put in the effort to try to find a friend. Like, I'm definitely going to try. Cause before I feel like I just didn't try, and I would always just be so shy and stuff like that. But this year I'm going to try. I'm definitely going to try. Yeah. So, yeah. And I know like it's probably my fault I didn't make that many friends, but like I'm just gonna try this year. And so yeah, I just graduated college this December 2021. And so I'm back home. Um I'm back home. I work as a math tutor now. Um and yeah, so I work as a math tutor, and I'm just working here until I like, I'm going to be applying for jobs and try to get an engineering job, like a job in my field. But I work as a math tutor, and I work with kids from K to 12. So that's where I'm at now. And I don't really have like I love having interaction with the kids and with my coworkers here, but my only other coworker, he's like 30 something, and he's so I'm like, he's in his 30s and like well established and stuff like that. So it's like I'm not gonna make a BFF with like a 36-year-old that's like married and established and stuff like that. Like, so like yeah, there's that. But I'm definitely, even though I graduated after, I'm definitely going to try to put myself out there more, and make more friends, and be more social and do more things and stuff. And I feel like this podcast is like the first step in like putting myself out there. Now mind you, I didn't start this podcast to make friends, but I did want to start this podcast just to like get myself out there and get my voice out there, because I feel like I don't like talk much or say much. I have so much to say, but like I don't have anyone to say it to, which is why like I made this podcast. Like, you know what I mean? Um, yeah. And look, I know in other episodes I'm usually just like giving my hot takes and opinions on things and stuff, but I kind of wanted to just, give you guys an introduction to me and about me and, talk to you guys. I mean, it's not like I have nobody else to talk to. I mean, well, I kind of do, but like I don't have anybody else to talk to besides my mom and my sister, is what I mean. But I do talk to them to a lot about everything, but it's nice to just like talk and get all of my feelings and thoughts about so many things out there with you guys and stuff like that. So I want to just talk to you guys, about me and my life in this specific episode. So, and as the podcast goes on, I'll probably say have more episodes like this every now and then to talk about myself and my life and certain like stories or story time that I want to tell y'all about. But I feel like this episode was like, a pretty good introduction. I wanted to take this, time for this episode to talk to y'all about, my background and my backstory and let y'all know a little bit more about me. Because like, it's just so, because like, I have nobody to talk to this about. I have zero friends. I can't recall the last time I had a BFF. The last time I had a BFF was like when around the time I was 15. And it's kind of interesting. I guess like I'm kind of, even though I do get lonely sometimes, I'm kind of so used to being alone that like I'm scared to be like friends with someone in that intimate sense, or like I guess like I'm scared to kind of open myself up to someone because like I said before, like what if they judge me for how I think? What if like they judge me because they don't think like me, or like, what if they think I'm like weird for my opinions? And I mean, I'm still gonna stand up for my opinions and for what I believe in. I'm not gonna like stop feeling how I feel just because somebody said they don't agree with me or they think it's lame. Like, no, I'm gonna feel with like how I feel. But still, like, I'm a little nervous to make friends because of that. Because I have like, unpopular opinions, and I'm so used to being alone. So how will I handle having a friend? Like, like you have to keep up with friends and put in work into friendships. How can I do that if I'm so used to being alone and I've been alone for like the past like 9 years in terms of like friendships and stuff like that? Like other people like in class, you don't have to keep up with that because you're going to see them in class. But if you have friends, you have to keep up with your friends and stuff like that, which I definitely do plan on putting the effort into doing. But it's just like, it's things that I think about, but I'm going to put the effort in, you know what I mean? And yeah, but like I said, like I am kind of scared. Like, what if I make friends and they don't share the same views as me and stuff like that? Like, what if I make a friend with someone and they're equally just as annoying as all the woke people that I talk about in this podcast? Like, what if I meet people and they judge me for how I think and believe and like my hot takes on certain topics, especially very popular topics in like the Black community and stuff, and what if they judge me for all of my unpopular opinions? Sometimes that's why I'm so scared to make friends with people because of that. Like, what if they think I'm problematic for my views and stuff like that? Or, you know, I mean, now, like I said, I don't make my entire personality my views, and I also hope I don't hang out with someone who makes social justice and being a social justice warrior their entire personality. I would hope they don't. But, I would prefer someone who thought like me or stuff like that, or thought it was cool. But I mean, I don't know like if I'm gonna meet them or not. Like I don't know off the bat what you're gonna be like, and you know what I mean? Like, and like honestly, I don't think people who are woke are like entirely in the wrong. There are just certain things and topics that I don't agree with, and I feel like sometimes woke people are just so fucking annoying and stupid, and they get offended by stupid stuff, in my opinion. And I mean, I guess I don't know. I guess I just like gotta put myself out there, put out the risk out there, and just find a way. Maybe I can like introduce them off the bat of me being like not much of a social justice warrior, just so they can know from jump I'm not like the weird wokesters, and then we can just go from there. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. And and oh my god, don't even get me started on relationships. Like, how am I gonna date? Like, I don't know a damn thing about dating. I think, well, honestly, I don't want to date until I lose more weight because I kind of gained a lot of weight during like quarantine, but I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna post a picture of myself one day. Eventually, I know I said I'll keep myself pretty anonymous, and I will, and I have. I feel like I've done a pretty good job of that so far. But I'll post a picture of myself one day. But anyway, how am I gonna date? You know what I mean with relationships? Like, I don't know a damn thing about dating. I don't want to date until I lose more weight, but like, still, like I haven't dated since I dated my eighth grade boyfriend in 2012. I mean, no, 2010. 2010. So that's like 12 years ago. So, like, I don't even know. Well, I want to make a friendship group first before I, like, start dating. But how am I going to do all these things? I don't know. I'll figure it out. I'll find a way. Like, I just got to put myself out there. But yeah, this year it was one of my New Year's resolutions to make at least one friend. When the time comes, I'm gonna find them. And but like I said, I have to put in the work and the effort to try to make a friend, which I definitely will. I'm definitely gonna do that this year. And also as I finish up with this episode, I want to talk about the reason why I started this podcast. The reason why I thought of this podcast and I started it is because, as I grow older, I develop my own opinions about what I do like and what I don't like, and just my own opinions on things. I'm not a social justice warrior because I've been around black people who treated me not too nicely, and I've been around white people who treated me nicely, but I've also been around black people who treated me nicely, and I've been around white people who didn't treat me very nicely. I've been around like an entire shebang or like squad of people, like regardless of like race and stuff. And some people treated me bad and some people treated me good. The bad people were both black and white people, and the good people were both black and white people. So it has nothing to do with race, it has to do with who the person is. You know what I mean? So that's just what I've seen, not in my life. And not to say that I haven't experienced racism or xenophobia or any of the things that the woke people talk about. Not to say I've never experienced that at all, because I have, but just what I've seen and what I've been through made me formulate my own opinions on things. That's why I want to voice them. My life experiences vary a lot from the life experiences from people that I've seen on like woke Twitter, and social justice Twitter sometimes. Like, I've worked around white people who were rude. I've worked around black people who were rude. I've worked around white people that were nice. I've worked around black people that were nice. Like, one of the girls that I worked with when I was at the Subway gas station up the street from my school when I was in college, she was white and she was xenophobic. But also in high school and middle school, I met black people who were xenophobic. You know what I mean? Like, for me, it wasn't never really like a race. Well, there I have had my experiences in racism and race and stuff like that, but for me, like, I don't know, like their hot takes and how white people were like terrible, like of woke tweet on woke Twitter, like their hot takes and how they talk about how like white people were shitty to them and black people were just sugar spice and everything nice. I just didn't get that experience. Like, you know what I mean? Like, um for me, it was really a case by case basis. Now, not like I said, I have experienced racism and xenophobia before from white people, but I've also experienced it from black people too. So, for me, it was always a case by case basis. Like, even in middle school and the beginning of high school, in high school, it was black people who told me they didn't like my hairstyles, not white girls. Or even in high school, like it would be like the black girls that would make memes about LOL, y'all edges be this, or y'all edges be that, and blah blah. Not white girls. So when people be like, when I was young, white people bashed me or white people made me feel blah blah when I was a young kid in high school and blah blah. I never felt that. For me, it was the black girls and stuff like that. For me, when I was in my first job at Burger King, it was the black guys who made fun of me for being African. It was the black guys who made fun of my afro and stuff like that. It was never the white people. So I guess like I guess like that's why I couldn't relate to sometimes when woke people say like, "Oh my god, I want to work around and be around and socialize around only black people." Like, I could never relate to that because like that doesn't determine if you're gonna be cool or not. Like, I get they want to meet people who grew up like similar to them and someone that they can relate to in terms of like similarity and like shared experiences, and they just kind of want like a fellow black person just to in terms of similarity and stuff like that. But on woke Twitter, I see all these people who were like, because I see like on woke Twitter, I see a lot of people who were in predominantly white spaces, and those woke people, those woke black people, they say like being around black people would be so much better because being around black people would be so much better for them because like they say that like being the only black person in a predominantly white space can sometimes like feel like uncomfortable or like you feel like an outsider. And people are going to speak their truth, and if that's their truth, that's what they went through, that's them. Okay, I understand that. But in my experience, being around all black people in middle school and stuff like that, that's not true. Or even like sometimes in certain spaces, like being around like a lot of black people and stuff like that, like that's just not true. If they're all black, then they're just going to make fun of you for something else. It doesn't mean that they're not going to be discriminatory, period. They just won't come at you for being black. They'll come at you for something else though. Like there are black people that are colorist, there are black people that are xenophobic, there are black people that make fun of like people depending on weight. Like they'll like if they won't make fun of you for being black, or you won't feel like you're an outsider because you're black, you'll be considered an outsider for something else. Like you'll be considered an outsider. For me, I was considered an other in middle school, and I was called like an Oreo by some people because like I spoke properly, or I spoke like um I spoke, properly or whatever, because I didn't have like the quote unquote black accent. Or I didn't speak hood and stuff like that. So it's not that like if you're around all black people, they would just be sugar spice and everything nice. It's just that whatever they would bash you for, if you grew up around those predominantly black spaces and stuff like that, or you went to school around that, they just come up with something else. That's just my experience. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's just like I remember in high school when the Ebola virus became really popular, I remember black people on Twitter saying that they would avoid Africans because of the Ebola virus. You know what I mean? So, like, I remember seeing my black classmates tweet shit like that. So, I've seen xenophobic black people. I've seen it all. So to me, that didn't really make a difference. The only difference was they would still get at you for something. They just wouldn't get at you for being black, since we're all black. They would find something else to judge you for. To me, it wasn't really whether someone was white or black. It was about like who they were on the inside, whether they were nice or mean. That's just my personal experience. I'm not trying to take away from anybody else with their experiences. Your experiences, and my experience is mine. Um, yeah, and also, like I said, back to the making friends thing. I definitely, like I said, I'm gonna try to do things to just make more friends this year. I definitely want to do that. Like I said, I want to get into gaming and stuff like that. Hopefully I meet new local gamers, because I feel like there are settings where you can do that and stuff. And yeah, one of my I definitely want to like meet new people, and I also just want to put myself out there because I have so much to say but no one to say it to. So I just put it all in a podcast. So another one of my New Year's resolutions, in addition to making a friend and losing weight, which I'm already doing, um one of my New Year's resolutions was to invent myself, or reinvent myself, if you will. I want to define who I am as a person this year, and I want to get more in touch with myself and with who I am. And one of those things included developing really who I am as a person, developing more friends, more interests, developing myself, developing my own thoughts and ideas, putting myself out there like I am with this podcast, stuff like that. I really wanted to like invent myself and get in touch with who I am as a person. And this is one of the things that I can start doing to reinvent myself. I want to start doing things to redefine myself, and then talk, just discuss like and be more confident and more like. I mean, I already am, and I already am sturdy in my thoughts and opinions, but I want to like, I'm really learning about defining and realizing myself and who I am. And I want to reinvent myself and put myself out there and do stuff outside of the box, like meet more people and be more social and stuff like that. And I mean, I am kind of nervous because like, what if they judge me for my opinions and thoughts? But I guess like maybe like I'll put my opinions and thoughts out there first and see if they vibe with me or not. And maybe from there we can go. And people that are like minded like me, they'll agree with it. And if not, they won't. Maybe we can go from there. I don't know. Or I don't know how I'm gonna do it. I don't know. Because I don't make my entire personality my thoughts and opinions and hot takes, but whatever. But maybe if I do it that way, they'll vibe with me first, and then I can show them like my real personality, just so I can see that we vibe on the same topics and stuff like that. I don't know. But anyway, I'm putting myself out there to anyone who's gonna listen. And I have a lot of opinions and things that I always used to keep to myself, and now I'm voicing them in this podcast. So that's a good keep up to and reinventing myself and defining myself and being more, realizing who I am as a person and stuff like that, which I already was, but I'm doing it more now. And I always wanted to say the opinions that I always felt like saying, but I just had never had anyone to say it to. So yeah, so this podcast was a step forward for me for focusing on my life, my opinions, and things like that, and things that define me and invent me. And I have a lot more to talk about in terms of hot takes and opinions and stuff like that, but this is just a personal life story and a personal segue into my life and life stories and stuff like that. And I'll have more stuff like that every now and then. So trust me, this is definitely just the beginning. But that pretty much sums up. There's gonna be more stuff. This isn't the end of the podcast. Sorry, the end of this episode. But yeah, that pretty much sums up the end of this episode. Thank you to all of my loyal and lovely, listeners all over the 14 different states and all over the 10 different countries that I talked about all over the world, and everybody on YouTube. I love you guys so, so, so freaking much. Like I said, I'm gonna drop a URL for you guys to like chat back to me if you want, or you can hit me up on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, No, I don't have a Twitter. Sorry, Instagram, Facebook. I have a Reddit. I have a TikTok, and I have a YouTube. So, and like, yeah, they're all in the link tree, so you guys can look at that. But thank you guys so much for listening into this episode. I know this isn't what we personally usually do. We usually talk about like hot takes, but I just wanted to take a day to just, explain like myself and my life story. And I'll probably do this like every now and then as well. But yeah, thank you guys for listening in so much, and I will see you guys in the next 2 weeks. See ya.